There we go. Tweet that out. Hey folks, sorry for the weird fake out from earlier. So I wanted to make it up to you by actually having a real Q&A. So here we are. Well, I'll let you all start filtering in, and we got no anticipation or no plans for what the purpose of this stream is. So you guys just start throwing out questions, we talk about whatever. Who knows, this could devolve into me playing a video game and then answering questions on the side as we play the game. It could develop into homebrew, character design, class design, I don't know. Just ask me anything, and we'll see what happens. Oh, all right. I also have slow mode on right now. So that means you can only post a message once a minute. And the reason I do that is because whenever I don't, I usually can never keep up with the chat. It just blows by way too fast. I'm doing good, Grant. Ezekiel, welcome back, sir. Doing good. Lucas Atkin, orgy, probably not. No. That's just irresponsible in these unprecedented COVID-19 times. Do I use beard oil? No, I do not. I shower and I trim, and that's it. No beard oil, just natural whatever. Are you going to run any Candlekeep mysteries when it comes out? If I have the time and something aligns, yes. It may make itself get baked into a homebrew campaign that I run every Tuesday night over on our Twitch channel. I might like run it as like a one shot or like drop it into that world and like run one of the adventures. I don't know if things align. I think after it comes out, there's a weekend where my wife is taking the boys to go see her sister, and I have the weekend basically to myself, so I might try to stream in that time frame. Have you heard of an anime called Overlord? The magic system is based on D&D, or on 3.5, as the author is a big D&D fan. No, Overlord, you say? No, I don't get a lot of time to watch TV, so I'm still trying to catch up on some other stuff. So Overlord, I wrote that down. I'm gonna write that it's an anime and not like a game, something else. Was that terrible rules-free game you recently made a video about the first time I got to play Rogue? Yes. Currently the last time at the moment. Glad to hear it, Lucas. I'm excited for Candlekeep Mysteries book. I'm running a game that happens to be in Candlekeep. What's your most anticipated upcoming book? Well, I'm thrilled about Candlekeep from what we just recently saw in the one video I made dealing with the magic items that are going to be coming in Candlekeep. So I'm excited for it for that. Obviously, I'm excited for Ravenloft. It's going to be new subclasses. The lineages, it's new options, right? I'm excited for the new monsters in Ravenloft. I'm excited for the lore of that world. If we are indeed getting Dragonlance, which I do anticipate that we are, I'm thinking those two dragon-based subclasses that appeared in the Unearthed Arcana subclasses part 5, the Dragon Monk and the Drake, whatever it was, the Ascendant Dragon Monk and the Drake Warden Ranger will be in that book. And I'm excited to actually play the Monk a lot, and I'm actually a little bit excited to try out that Ranger, but I'm curious to see what the genesis of them is, where they end up the final product. Hope you're doing well. Just wanted to thank you. Oh, well, thank you, General Solo. Can I do a video on myconids? Like lore on them? I don't really do lore stuff, and that's just like a whole specific genre. And it's not like I couldn't. Let me rephrase. It's not like I couldn't do that, because I could. But it's just like, I don't feel like it's worth me breaking into D&D lore stuff when there's so many people out there that do that, and it just doesn't seem like it'd be a good fit I'm swamped with content. If I start adding lore content, it's going to take even longer. I'm planning out an encounter involving my level 5 players needing to choose between enemy number 1 and enemy number 2. Currently is a lineup is a Coven of Hags versus an Oni. I don't know. The Oni is tricky. You might want to add something more to not just a singular Oni. Thank you, Storm Silverland, for the super chat. What's your thoughts on 4th edition? I never played it. I don't even think I started reading one of the player's handbook. But I was so steeped in getting a 3rd edition game up and running because that's what I knew. And like I was playing in a 3rd edition game, it ended. And I started running one for my friends because that's what I knew, 3.5. And I had books. I had 3.5 books, and I wasn't going to go buy a bunch of 4th edition books. And then I started reading through it, and I remember reading the Druid in like a Barnes & Noble. I was reading the Druid section, because Druid was my favorite class at the time. And I just wasn't thrilled with any of the stuff that I read. So I just left it alone. Hags or green hags makes sense. I'm running a Hex Crawl adventure in Islecross. Do you have any tip on describing weather and making weather tables? There was a resource recently that I came across that had good weather stuff. I can't remember what it is. Check the DM's Guild, though. I think there's some good stuff on weather. How am I doing? I saw your little vid earlier. Yo, you know what that... So, yeah, Wild Picks. My little video earlier... my patrons get an exclusive Q&A once a month. And that's actually what that was meant to be, but I didn't realize I had already had my my recording stuff turned on. So it's supposed to be set to unlisted, so only the patrons can go to it. And I like accidentally blipped it on for everybody, and then I was like, whoops, time to shut that off. So that's what that was about. But because I did that and messed up, I wanted to show up and give you guys a Q&A to give everybody one. I've heard of Treant Monks class variants. A lot of people keep telling me about them. I have not checked them out. Maybe we will over the course of this stream if things start to die down. So Storm Silverland, it's going well. Grant, I'm going to be playing an Aberrant Mind Sorcerer Paladin Molting Glade. Yes, Aberrant Mind seems amazing. It's on my list of characters that I would like to play. Quite late, my friend, but do take care. Oh, General Solo. Yeah, of course. Thank you. I'd highly recommend a magic punk anime called Straight Jacket, How I Envision the Armorer Artificer. All right, well, we're going to have an anime suggestion list by the end of, at the end of this here. What's it called? Straight Jacket. Okay. Appreciate the consistency on your news updates, my guy. Yeah, man, I do whatever I can, with the news. I don't feel like I should have been a journalist, but I have, fun fact, I've reached out to some of my contacts inside the PR firm that handles Wizards of the Coast, and I think, we don't know, but I have tried to work my way into the press briefings. So you know how like folks like comicbook.com put out an article after a press briefing from Wizards of the Coast where they talk about the new book? I think that I'm on that list now, so I will get invited to the press briefings so I can take my own notes and then provide information from you rather than reading off a comicbook.com article. And that may be days in advance, I'm hoping, right? So that I can release the video when the news is like no longer under NDA. So fingers crossed on that. Top 3 Watsy adventures. I'm gonna say Curse of Strahd. I haven't played Icewind Dale, but I like what I've read of it, so I'm going to say Icewind Dale. And I haven't played Baldur's Gate Descended to Avernus, but I've heard good things. I'd say Out of the Abyss. I liked that a lot. It was a good campaign, at least when we played it, so I enjoyed that. Do I have any tips to design a guild with Witcher-type ideals? I would say take a look at the... if you can find a copy, the Tal'Dorei campaign guide or the Explorer's Guide to Wildmount. There might be something under an organization in there that you can use for like the Slayer's Take Yeah, I think the Slayer's take was in the original Tal'Dorei campaign guide. I posted a sort of counter argument to one of your claims in a video that Tasha's didn't exactly have broken stuff in it. In that comment, I brought up the Spirit Shroud. I feel like I mean, I have to look at what Spirit Shroud does, but I remember looking at Spirit Shroud and being like, it's a poor man's Spirit Guardians. So, I mean, Spirit Guardians is how I measure everything, really. What is your favorite official subclass in each of the class? Shank Mugen? Stay tuned. That's a video I'm actually going to be making. I just had the epiphany to make that video. My favorite, not a top 10, just my favorite subclass of each of the classes. And I'm going to make that a video. Might be coming out this weekend, if not, sometime this coming week. Also, folks, there is, we talk about how, you know, I have a regular job and I work for a utility company. There is some weather, some serious looking weather coming in here Monday, Tuesday. So you might see a lapse in me doing stuff. I mean, you might not. It's me, right? I'll probably find a way to make it work. But I've got night shifts for like the first half of this week. So you might see it. Either the timing may be funky because I'm switching schedules, or, yeah, I don't know. Just a heads up. When do you think they're going to put out a manual of the planes? Well, if the stuff from the Watsy or the Hasbro investor report is accurate, maybe sooner rather than later if they're going to bump up the cadence of books. My thoughts are, if they do decide to bump up the cadence of D&D books from 4 to more than 4, they can take a risk on a book that might not sell as well. I made my video talking about how you can have the reason we get mostly player-based resources or the DM tools are hidden in a player-based book because player books sell better, which is accurate, just a numbers game purely. But if they bump up the cadence to, say, 5 books a year, maybe they could do their standard 4 and then release the 5th book is more of a DM-style book, like a manual of the planes, for example. And that might be okay, because they can still fall back on the other 4 books. I don't know, but that's a theory that I have. As a DM, I have a party of all kobolds, and it's cleric and 2 paladins. They swarmed a CR8 frost giant and destroyed it. That'll happen. Cleric and paladins, man. Single target, that's the problem. Paladins, amazing at single target damage. The way you beat paladins is a bunch of enemies. Thoughts and opinions. Would you say a level 17 fighter having access to an item that allows them to transform into an adult dragon once a day is overpowered? At level 17, you could, in theory, at level 17, you have True Polymorph. So True Polymorph is a spell that someone could cast, and were they to cast True Polymorph, they could choose to turn into a dragon. If they've, you know, so that's an option. So if you're looking at how to balance a magic item at level 17, think about the fact that a caster is going to have access to things like True Polymorph and Wish, meter it out that way, right? So whatever it says, I think True Polymorph is a creature with a challenge rating equal to your level. Look at the challenge rating of a creature, of a dragon that's challenge rating 17. Make your choice from that. With Tasha's being out for a good amount of time now, will you be going back in to do a top 10 worst subclasses, or how to fix weaker subclasses? Yes, at some point. I don't have any plans. I don't have like a roadmap. And I don't, if I did, I wouldn't publish it because I don't want to be held to that. I like to be able to make the videos that I want to make when I want to make them. I do still take all your suggestions. I have a massive Google Doc with just suggested video topics that people throw out, and I try to make sure I keep that up to date anytime someone throws out something that catches my interest. So I don't know if I'll be doing a top 10 worst subclasses yet, specifically because we know we're going to be getting at least 2 more, maybe 4 to 6 more subclasses this year. So maybe that might be an end of 2021 roundup kind of video. What are my thoughts on Conquest Paladins and how to roleplay one? I think Conquest Paladins are really cool. We had one in our Evil campaign until he made a bunch of stupid decisions, and then the character died, and then the player left the game. I think they're pretty cool. I don't know. I don't think they have to be evil. I feel like a lot of people are like, Conquest Paladins have to be evil. Well, I don't think so. I think you might want to rule with an iron fist, or take things over and you know, like a warlord doesn't necessarily, like, I feel like warlord obviously gets a lot of like negative connotation, but like if you are taking over land and ruling it well, or taking it back from other people, like you can kind of have that going for you. I don't think it's bad. What Macallan is sitting next to me? This is a Macallan Select Oak. This is a single malt of extraordinary smoothness, remarkable sweetness, and depth. Last Friday, this was a half a bottle. And then I got involved in a very fun project, which will be coming out in April, which I can tell you about. It's called Lore and Pour. Don't know if you've heard about it. If you've ever watched Drunk History before, or you're familiar with that, Drunk History, Lore and Pour, rather, is a D&D lore show in the vein of Drunk History. I was one of the guests. I think my episode comes out in April. And what's cool is you get your topic that you're going to be discussing a half an hour before you start recording, and then basically you just drink a lot, and the host treats you as though you are the premier expert on the topic that you're given, and then you just go till the video's done, or till the podcast is done. So look for that coming in April. I'll post about it when it comes out. Do I consider myself a role player, a power gamer, or any other title? I'd say, well, so my history, if you will, my pedigree, would come more in the vein of a power gamer or a min-maxer, if you will. But in my experience, it's not everybody's, but in my experience playing D&D 3.5, and my experience looking for assistance and stuff online for D&D 3.5, it was purely just, here's how you make the best character, quote, the best character, the most optimized, the best options, the most broken, and so on. That's how things were done, from my experience, from the circle that I lived in. Now, my first character was horribly unoptimized because I didn't know any better, and I strove to be better as time went on. And like roleplay wasn't really like the way we roleplay. I feel like now, and the way people expect roleplay to be, where you might like make hard decisions for your character, or you might make an accent, or people might even make costumes. We were nowhere near that at all. We would it'd be like, yeah, I go up to him, and I have my character goes up to him, and they say whatever. But I've grown to embrace the role play part of it as I've come to terms with it in 5th edition, especially doing shows and streams and stuff. It kind of is a necessity, so I do my best to do that. But I'd still fall probably more in the area of like a min-maxer, I guess, power gamer, and like role player second, I guess. In my mind, too, it's easier for me to enjoy playing my character if my character is really good at what they do. When DMing, how do I handle giving out magic items? I give out way too many, way too soon. And every time I say I'm going to rein myself back in, I don't. My internet was dying, so stream was interrupted twice. Won't be back up. No, well, Mango, thanks for coming out. Well, let's scroll back up. We lost some stuff here. Do you think they'll release Dark Sun? They might, but I'm not sure. I feel like Planescape or Spelljammer, like, it's almost a meme at how much people want Spelljammer, and I feel like they should do it, but it'll never live up to the hype, so who knows. I am the first-time player as of the last 4 weeks. It's been a great experience, and your experience and opinions. Oh, awesome, Anthony. Glad I could help. Joe Geiger, am I looking forward to Zack Snyder's Justice League? I never saw the original, because I just don't care. I'm a Marvel fan through and through. With the exception of Batman the Animated Series, the Justice League, Young Justice, mostly the animated Batman movies, which are the most, yeah. I don't really even love Batman, but I grew up watching Batman the Animated Series, and I still recognize now how good a show that is. I did just sign up for HBO Max, though, for other stuff, but now I'm like rewatching the animated series with my 4-year-old, and he loves it. And it's really funny. He's started doing a Batman voice, like a Christian Bale Batman voice, and I don't really know where he got that from, but he does, and it's hilarious. But I do want to go watch the original Justice League and like catch up on some of the the new Harley Quinn show, and I'll watch it when it comes out, just because I'm like, but I don't care. I really don't care what happens with it. And I don't feel like you can really call it a cut at this point, because it just seems like they're filming a whole new fucking movie. So I just don't know. If you do it with Marvel, for the most part, you do it right the first time. My current campaign is coming to a close, and one of my players wants to DM. They want to choose between Descendant to Avernus, Strahd, Storm King's Thunder. Their first-time DM, I'm going to say probably Storm King's Thunder. Or maybe Descendant to Avernus. It depends if they're comfortable with the concept of sort of... Those three campaigns, at least Strahd and Storm King's Thunder, have sort of sandboxy elements to them, where there is no real track. Like, you can just go do things in a variety of different orders. You pick what you want to do. I think Descent to Avernus is a little more structured in the path that you take. It might not be bad for a first-time DM. If I could erase my knowledge of any edition of D&D and relive the experience of it, which edition would you choose? 3.5. 100%. I would love that. During all my D&D searches, I came across the combat wheelchair. I'm not even sure it's something I'd ever use in a campaign. What's your take on it? Would you use it? Absolutely. If someone wants to do that or add that in game, 100%, right? That's awesome. I don't care. Do whatever you want. Like, I'm not opposed to people wanting to or playing a character that they want to play, right? I want people, my biggest thing when I show up and play D&D, or I'm running D&D, is I want everybody to have fun. I take a little bit of a higher, I'm a little harder on like my friends that I play every week with, because we're streaming and it's on the internet and it's a form of entertainment for people. So I prefer if they're a little bit more on the ball, a little bit, more not laser focused, but more focused on what we're doing, because it's a form of entertainment. I always think about it like, if I was going to watch this as a TV show, would I be interested, or would I just click out of it because it's boring as hell? But no, if somebody wants to make a character in any way they want, whatever it is, 100%. Tips for running Watsy campaigns. I'm specifically running Waterdeep Dragon Heist, but any advice would be appreciated. Check the DM's Guild specifically for that adventure, or any adventure, because you'll find a ton of products. You might even find guides. And also, don't be expecting a big heist in Dragon Heist, because if you run it as written, there isn't one. Who's your favorite player in the NBA? My Little Pump. I'm not a basketball guy, so I haven't watched a basketball game since Jordan's like original Bulls run in the 90s. So can't ask me. I just don't know. More of a football guy. I started watching your videos on my lunch breaks at work and just wanted to say that you really refreshed my interest in D&D. Awesome. Thank you, Bradley. You should check out SW53. Okay, added it to the list. Thank you for the tips on the Slayer's Take. Yeah, of course. If you're all watching, be sure to like the stream, everyone. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I do appreciate it. If you do, it does help. Any thoughts on the new Baldur's Gate 3 Druid? Hope you're doing well. Don't forget to grab some sleep. Yeah, I've been enjoying the Druid a lot, and I'm really bummed because our stream, we started and we got so far into our stream in like the 6 or 7 episodes that we filmed, and then patch 4 dropped, and now I've been playing the Druid a lot on my own, and I really wanted to play I personally wanted to start over, like start our campaign all over again and go through it again with the new patch and all the new updates. But I recognize that some of the folks involved have it was originally pitched as a limited time commitment, like that we would play through to the end of the adventure till everything was done, and then we would stop. But everybody is also playing Baldur's Gate 3 on their own to try out the Druid. So if we all get to a point where we're close to where we are now in solo plays, we might just try to jump the ship and jump over to that. I don't know. But I like it a lot. I like that they added the spells they added to the Druid to the other classes. I think that was a pretty cool idea. Ted, would you play in a campaign setting that has the Dragon Riders and Dragon Slayers, like a Pern kind of a thing? Like Dragon Riders? Yeah, 100%. I would love that. Like an Aragon or something like that. Not the movie, the first 3 books, maybe. Not the 4th one or whatever's come out since then. Yeah, no, I would play that. I've always wanted to play. There was a couple classes in 3.5. There was the Dragon Shaman, which I've often talked about, and the Dragon Fire Adept, 2 classes that I very much like. I think I did a video, one of my classes I want from 3.5 and 5e, like part 2. Both of those are on it, and I mean, it's part of the name of the game. these 2 dragon subclasses like got me super jazzed. I'd love a Dragonomicon. Would be amazing. I don't think we're gonna get it anytime soon, but I like that. Have any advice on running factions, both the renowned system and any potential benefits that you can get from reaching higher ranks? There's not a lot of info in the books. No, I would take a look at the Adventurers League stuff from early on. Because the original Adventurers League, before they made all the changes to remove factions entirely, they had a lot of faction-based content because that was a big part of your character. And then they sort of just kind of removed it. It's silly now. But they had things you could get, items you could get, training and trading and all this kind of stuff. So you can find, I think, almost a lot of that you can find for free, I think, on the... If you can dig through the archives on like the Adventure League website or whatever it is now, Yawning Portal, I don't know. But you can definitely find it on the DM's Guild. Stay safe, stay dry, stay warm. Thank you. What campaign setting do you want to see Wizards do in the future? I'm getting on board with the Spelljammer train, right? After playing Baldur's Gate 3, I could think that could be fun. Planescape would be another one. I have a 3.5 book called Ghostwalk, and I don't know if it's technically a campaign setting, but it always seemed interesting to me, so that might be fun. Planescape, what's my favorite type of TV to watch? So that's tricky, right? Because when I used to work from home back in the day, before it was every day like it is now, I used to watch a variety of things. So I have a very eclectic style in TV and movies. I watch just about everything, right? Like if you were to look at my movie collection, which you can't really see, but it's over here, you can kind of see the DVDs right there. But I love horror movies, right? I'm a big horror movie guy. I love really crappy B movies, like anything you'd see on Red Letter Media's like Best of the Worst. I love that kind of stuff. I used to do that. That was like what I used to do for my birthday, would like go rent really bad movies and have friends hang out and order pizza and like watch the really bad movies and rag on them. Who knows? That could have been the first Red Letter Media. Well, it would have been Orange Letter Media if it was here, but it is what it is. So I like anime. I like cartoons. I obviously have 2 kids, so I watch a lot of kids' cartoons as well. Like The Mandalorian was really great. I watch a lot of educational stuff, from painting to woodworking to home improvement. Right, these are things I do for myself and as a hobby, so I like learning more about that. Like This Old House is a big one for me. Woodworking for Mere Mortals, Fix This, Build That. I'm wearing a Bob Ross shirt. This is something I like. I like to watch Bob Ross, the joy of painting, when I need to like de-stress, because he just calms me down. I don't know. It's really a variety of stuff. Things that I've watched a lot more recently was like a million watch through of She-Ra and the Princess of Power, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Again, over so many times. That's also a really good comfort show. Like for me and my wife, we really like Avatar, so we watch that a lot. The fact that it's on Netflix, and now there's the new Avatar Studios coming out, announced by Nickelodeon. That's pretty exciting. I don't know. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, obviously, Ghostbusters. I'll go back and watch like the Saiyan and like the Cell saga of Dragon Ball Z, or the Frieza saga, obviously, in between. I don't know, a variety of stuff. Are you looking forward to the D&D movie, The Game? I'll play it. I will absolutely play it because I think it'll be ridiculous. But I'm hopeful that this D&D movie, the people they've attached to it, look good. So, thoughts on Fortnite and how it's adding rising racial tensions in America? I don't know anything about Fortnite because I'm an old man in comparison. I don't know anything about Fortnite and racial tensions, so that's news to me. But no, I mean, people seem to enjoy it. So good for you if you guys enjoy Fortnite. I do think that it did add way too many of that style of gameplay. I don't even know what you technically call it, but where basically you drop in with nothing. It's like a survival shooter sort of a thing. You drop in with nothing and you're finding weapons, you're picking it up. Like, PUBG and Warzone and Apex Legends and stuff like that. I haven't really gotten into any of them. The only one I did get into for a while was Apex Legends, which I did enjoy quite a bit. Do you ever sleep? I do. I promise you I sleep. Not as much as a normal human, but I also think that I do have the capability to sleep less than most people and still be fully functional. What's my favorite Pokemon? Kingler. Hands down. Kingler is my favorite Pokemon. I've always loved Kingler, and I'm sad that he gets slept on with things like Mega Evolutions, and when they keep adding evolutions to other Pokemon. I'm fine. Keep Kingler as the final form and make a baby Pokemon that comes before Krabby, and then I'd be happy. And then I'd have like a full evolutionary line, and then I'd have more stats would be better, and it would just be great. Do you think they'll come up with 5.5e or something? As I stated in the video about the investor meeting, you don't turn your back on 33% profit, right? If sales start dwindling, sure, you go in, you try to reinvigorate it somehow. If they're smart, I might release like I don't know if I'd call it 5.5 or revised, but call it like a compendium, right? Call it the D&D 5e core compendium. That sounds pretty fancy, right? And it is an updated version of like the monster manual, the Dungeon Master's Guide, and the Player's Handbook, and it collects a bunch of stuff together. And it's a compendium, right? That's how it works. Or you call it the D&D 5e compendium, and it's a big, thick book. I don't know. It depends, right? You run the line of if you start combining stuff together into one book, then you run the risk of losing sales of the individual books. Why do you think there isn't a Spelljammer campaign setting yet? Because they enjoy the memes of it, honestly. How do I feel? Oh, have you watched the Pokemon Post Malone concert? No, I saw that it was happening and I didn't watch it yet. I don't even know I don't know anything by Post Malone. I haven't listened to modern music in, 10 years, maybe. I haven't listened to anything that's in the past 10 years, I guess is a good way to describe my musical taste. I'm gonna watch it because I'm just curious to see what it's like, but yeah. How do I feel about Overwatch 2? I mean, Overwatch 1 I thought was still going pretty strong, but, you know, I felt the same way when they did Destiny 2, but that was a big change, and I think a solid improvement over Destiny 1. So I'll probably get Overwatch 2. I like that there's a PvE mode that's not tied to seasonal, like, holiday events, like, you know, Professor Junkenstein and all the, like, the you know, the other different events. So I like that there's a standard PvE mode. And I was really, really big into Overwatch when it came out. I loved Overwatch, and I used to play it all the time. And now, like, sometimes I'll play it casually, but the meta has moved on. Like, I remember when I came back at one point, and I was like, wait, they can't have multiple characters of the same character on the same team? Because I remember doing, like, 1 Mercy and 4 McCrees, or 4 McCrees and 1 Mercy, you know, all sorts of crazy concepts back in the day. And then they're like, no, you can only pick one. So I remember when that change was made. So it's just, you know, with any shooter, you got to stay up to date. Otherwise, you're going to just fall behind. Warlock's best Mystic Arcanums for 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th level spells. Woof. That is a lot. Can you do top 10 Spelljammer monsters to bring to 5e? I'll write it down. I might tap somebody else to help me with that. Because I'm not the most Spelljammer averse person here. Spirit Trap basically allows you to 1d8 per attack, another d8 every 2 levels above 3. This, with something like Jim's Magic Missile, is game-breaking, in my opinion. 100 plus damage at level 5. Con is range. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot. But again, you could do crazy stuff with regular Magic Missile, like with Fury of the Small and an Evocation Wizard and all this other kind of nonsense. You could do ridiculous amounts of damage with just regular Magic Missile. I don't know. I don't think... I think that's such a specific thing, and if you honestly want to build your character to do 100 plus damage at level 5 by having to be within 10 feet of someone to have Spirit Shroud work, and also have access to Jim's Magic Missile, which, by the way, does cost you a gold piece every time you cast it. Not that that's necessarily a huge deal, but maybe at level 5 it might be. I'd go for it, you know? That's how I feel. I did erased my knowledge of D&D. I said 3.5. Do you see more D&D Magic crossover? Yeah. I think if they ever do release a 6th edition, Magic the Gathering and D&D will be together from the start, because that just makes sense. Magic the Gathering had a 23% profit last year. D&D had 33%. If they can leverage one into the other, because right, that's the goal, right? You have two very successful groups. If I can get the Magic people to come to D&D and the D&D people to come to Magic, I'm just rolling in the dough. That's a smart investment move. Played Kragmaw Hideout and Wyvern Tour. First Magic items for the players' ideas. I don't want them to be powerful. Players are Human Fighter, Drow Ranger, Half-Elf Monk, and Dragonborn Paladin. Well, you want to give, I mean, depending on how you want to go about it, you might want to give the melee types magic weapons, right? Because then eventually they're going to run into stuff with magic resistance. Probably not as part of Lost Mines of Phandelver, but it'll help. There's also some decent magic items in that book. I'd say you could probably go with like anything, definitely any of the common magic items for sure. But, you know, it's hard to say without knowing your, without knowing the party and the players to know exactly what to pick. Okay, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to answer that question about Mystic Arcanum real quick, just so I can get it, so I can say that I did it. All right. Let's see. Spell level 6, 7, 8, 9. The problem is I'm using D&D Beyond to sort this, and the problem with that is D&D Beyond will not add Tasha's Cauldron of Everything Mystic Arcanum. So if I'm looking at 6th level Mystic Arcanum, I'm gonna say Mass Suggestion. Yep. 7th level Mystic Arcanum, I'm gonna say Force Cage. 8th level Mystic Arcanum, I'm gonna say Dominate Monster. Or Maddening Darkness, maybe. Dominating Monster, probably, though. 9th level. Oh, wait, am I just grabbing the... No, these are just Warlock. And 9th level Mystic Arcanum. I like Psychic Scream, but I've never had it work well. So I would say, if Foresight truly is on that list, yeah, I would go with Foresight. There you go. I wanted... Usher Mounted Combat, and it got me interested in Mounted Polearm Master Oath of Vengeance build. I'll be doing Descent to Avernus. Any thoughts on the order and feats of ASIs I should take? Obviously, Mounted Combat you probably want to get pretty early. I'd say Mounted Combat, depending on how your mount situation is. Well, you're a Paladin, so you have one. Mounted Combat, Polearm Master, Sentinel, maybe, in that order. A lot of my friends are really hoping for a book based in the Feywilds. Do you think that... I still have holdouts for that, so yes. What's the most obscure Forgotten Realms lore that I know? Oh boy. That's tricky. Huh. Now you really got me stumped here, thinking about this. I do know a lot of Forgotten Realms lore, and I'm just trying to pull something that I can remember. Yeah, I'm really having a hard time. Sorry, that's just really just stumped me completely. I was not anticipating a question of that caliber. A great question. Jesus. Forgotten Realms lore. It's not really obscure, but I know that the Purple Dragon Knights are really called that after someone who killed the great black dragon in Cormyr, and it was so old and black that its scale started turning purple. It's not really obscure, but that's like a weird one that comes to mind. Bottle donation equals pick the topic. Thinking of particular tribe. Lauren Poor. That is, I'm not the owner of Lauren Poor, so that is One Shot Onslaught. So you need to reach out to them. They are the purveyors of that show. So ask them. Have I checked out Star Wars 5e? Yes, I have. I haven't played it. I made a character in it, never went anywhere, and that campaign never even got off the ground. And I actually used a lot of those to translate them into like the powers, the force powers, to translate them into spells for Lagwin, my Blade Singer, and Rod of Seven Parts, because Lagwin was basically a Jedi. So I used the ones that made sense, like the Force Choke and things like that. I brought them over so that he would have those abilities in the D&D game. So I was like a custom wizard spell. What is my favorite ASI or feat to take overall? Tasha's included. That's tricky, man. Probably a tie between Elven Accuracy and Infernal Constitution, I think. What class do I enjoy playing the most? Paladin. I'd love to say Rogue, but I just don't have the experience. I do also like Bard and Cleric as well. Oops. Hang on. Scrolling up. Where did it go? Oh, boy. Hang on. We're getting there. I'm kind of scrolling back up. Why do you think Watsy is afraid to give us a Plant Druid or a Sorcerer subclass and Druid Beastmaster subclass? Real question. Know any third-party homebrew versions of those that are fun? A Plant Druid or Sorcerer subclass and a Druid Beastmaster subclass. There was a Circle of the Beast Druid kicking around somewhere which used that. I don't know why we don't have a Plant Druid, if I'm being honest with you. I feel like that's a big hole that we're missing. And I started working on one myself at some point. It just never went anywhere. I don't know of any third-party ones. I checked the DMs Guild, though. Good evening to you too, BK Dan. Tips on virtual tabletop options for Roll20. Bang. Yeah, I don't really use a virtual tabletop because I've had... A lot of the times they're laggy. They make weird, like, things don't always work well when they're streaming. So I've avoided virtual tabletop. So I'm not really the person to ask. Can you imagine how weird it would be to see a live stream of D&D circa 2008 or so? Yeah. It would be. Very strange. I also, AJB. Yeah. I mean, I had a podcast planned. In a 5th edition podcast plan for 2014. I had recordings. I think I might even still have them somewhere kicking around. And I just never got around to doing it. But a 2008 D&D live stream would have been wild because it would have just been like all about the dice and what was going on. Totally different game. What's the average level you reach in games as a DM or PC? I've reached 9 4 times, but this 4th one is still going strong. So my original campaign, the very first time I ever played D&D, ended at around 11. And then I had another one that ended around 12-ish. And then again, most of the other... I try to run long-running campaigns. So I currently am running a campaign with level 17 characters that started at level 1. I started a campaign that I ran to level 16. Any of the pre-written campaigns, the early ones all kind of end around 15, 16. So I've done a couple of those. So it really depends, right? I feel like if you run pre-written campaigns, then like you usually get to whatever that is, 10, 11, 12, something like that. I'd say probably 10 would be the average though. How probable do you think they'll actually publish a book people want, like Planescape or Spelljammer? You know, it's like I said, it's kind of a meme at this point that they're just not making those a possibility. Like, they're making jokes about Spelljammer confirmed, and I'm like, do you guys enjoy this? Is this fun for you, Wizards of the Coast? So I don't know. The problem is at this point, like with so many things, it won't live up to the hype because it's been so long. People don't care anymore. Like people have it built up so much in their mind. And that's how I felt about Diablo 3, personally. Like I was waiting so long for Diablo 3, and I was just like, meh, didn't really scratch that itch. Best sorcerer subclass, Aberrant Mind. All players check under their stairs for Staff of the Magi. What is your favorite Scotch, and do you enjoy peated Scotch? I don't know if I've ever had a peated Scotch. I've heard a lot about it. I don't know if I've ever had one. Honestly, this Macallan Select Oak, it was my first time I'd ever had it. But I tell you, man, this was one of the smoothest Scotches I've had. I'm a fan of, not that I get to drink it very often, but I do enjoy Blue Label quite a bit. But I've never been done wrong by a Macallan. So if I had to pick, I think I'd probably lean towards Macallan. I'll just because I have a bunch of different Scotches, I try different things, but Macallan's always seemed to do right by me. Do you think Watsy, with the release of Blade Singing and Tasha's, do you feel they'll change extra attack? I feel like it should be evaluated for sure, and if you're a DM, I'd consider doing that for your players as well. I'm running a Lost Minds of Phandelver game, and I'm wondering what first level spells I should take on a self-centered bard. Command, Cure Wounds, Detect Magic, Sleep. Solid. Eventually, you might want to swap Sleep out as you get to slightly higher levels where Sleep will start to fall off. And I might go for, because you'll have higher level spells at that point, make sure you get Shatter is a big one. Identify can be useful as well. Healing Word, again, for the bonus action. What do I mean by, I just think because people want Spelljammer so much, whatever they release won't be what most people ultimately want. It just won't have enough. It won't be Spelljammery enough for everybody. How do you pace your games in terms of leveling up? I also struggle with this. I struggle with handing out magic items too soon and handing out level ups too soon. So I'm not a good person to ask, because I like seeing the enjoyment on my player's face when they find that cool magic item or they hit that level up. And that often outweighs my own mental pacing of the game. I'm going to make a Grim Hollow style transformation that's basically buffs my cantrips. Any interesting ideas? I'm not sure. Oreo Sebastian, I answered it before, but favorite Pokemon is Kingler. Best Sorcerer subclass, Aberrant Mind. Said it before. Have I seen the Clone Wars? Yes. Love Clone Wars. Seen all of Clone Wars all the way up through the most recent season, and I've seen most of Rebels. I started off power gamer like you, but I'm really glad they brought role-playing aspect so front and center in 5e. I mean, back in AD&D, you might stumble into a random role player. Yeah, I feel like role players were the quote weirdos of the. I mean, we're all weird in this time period because we're all playing D&D and we're considered to be weird. But if you're like the role player guy, people are like, "Whoa, what's up with you, dude? We're just here to play D&D." And now it's the opposite. All right, I'm excited for the new Pokemon Legends Arceus and Gen 4. Yes! I love Gen 4. I know Gen 4 gets shit on a lot for some reason. Gen 4 basically carried me through college. I loved Gen 4. It was right when I was in college. I'm a geologist. I was in school for geology and the underground whole concept of digging out fossils and all that. Love that. Big fan of that. I just like the story. I don't know. I just really like Gen 4. It was also one of the last times in recent years that I can remember I collected every Pokemon in the national dex that was available at the time. I think I've done that since. I think I did an X and Y, but I did that at that point, and that was felt good to me. I remember I had the number of Pokemon out of the number of Pokemon available in my AIM profile on AOL Instant Messenger. And I remember when I changed it to caught them all. It's a big moment for me. I started with 1E. How about you? When did you start? I was 17, 2004. I think that tracks, right? 3.5 is where I started. Have I seen the D&D Facebook post giving us levels for different Candlekeep stories? No, I haven't. They've been saying what the levels is for the different adventures? That's interesting. Maybe I'll make a video. Have you ever considered reviewing unofficial D&D books? I have. I've actually done some in the past. Like Cobalt Press's stuff, Jetpack 7 stuff. They're on the channel. There's a lot, right? I have a lot of videos. It's easy to lose track. Have I ever played in any of the Goodman games remakes? No, I own Isle of Dread. And I read through that, and it was very exciting to see how they do the original adventure, the updated adventure, and like some background. That was pretty cool. I haven't gotten a chance to play one. I feel like Jordan would be someone who would want to run one of those at some point, like Return to Castle Amber or something like that. So we might do that at some point. Who knows? How would you pace your games in terms of leveling up? Yeah, again, the worst person to ask. I always am like, and I struggle with that, right? Because if I look at how my players did X, because like again, started off playing D&D in a time frame of a different world where XP was everything. You tracked your XP. So like in the back of my mind, I might like jot notes in my notebook and be like, well, they hit enough XP to hit level 3, but they're still level 1. Should I make them level 3? Did it feel impactful enough for a milestone? I don't know. That's the problem I run into. It's like sometimes I was like, well, maybe I'll track the XP in the back of my notebook and just use that to level them up. But then like, what if they just like got into a stupid random encounter that they didn't need to be into, or they instigated a fight and that XP technically was enough to level them up? Do I reward them for that? Don't know. How would you allow a mute spellcaster? I have a Warforged with no voice box. He was thinking longer duration to cast spells, and all spells would be somatic components, bonus action, takes an action, and so on. So that's interesting. I mean, obviously there are spells that use somatic components and material components and no verbal components. There are spells that do that. It would be you need to write a system that doesn't make it too difficult for you to play, because that's a part of it. Because at the same time, spells, again, the spells designed with a verbal component are so that they can't be disguised. You have to hear somebody, I'm actively casting a spell. So yeah, maybe a longer time frame to cast, but is that fun at that point? As long as you're having fun and you and the DM work out a process that works, go for it. Divination Wizard with a Fey Child Homebrew background to make it a Hexblood that is a Kenku who has a canny Fortune Teller who's a Witch. That is a lot to unpack. Sounds like it could be interesting, though. Hey, man, I was curious how you run big army battles, if you do them. I use Strongholds and Followers, but I'm waiting for Kingdoms and Warfare, but was wondering if you have some homebrew system. No, and I don't feel like 5th edition has a great way to do it. They had mass combat rules, and then they made an Unearthed Arcana about mass combat rules, and I don't think they ever printed those mass combat rules in a book. I don't think so. It would have probably been around Xanathar's time, and they just didn't put it in a book. I remember there was an Adventure League module I played in where we used mass combat rules. And like it was the UA version, and it just didn't go anywhere. No, I don't have a good option, and I'm actually going to have to look into that because I do have some plans to do that in the near future in one of my games, so I should figure that out myself. If you find something, link it to me. What would you recommend as a fix for the 4 Elements Monk? See my Fixing the 4 Elements Monk video. There you go. Adding things to the list like Steve after getting out of his deep ice bath. Have you read anything about Pathfinder 2nd Edition? No. How would you play a non-lust-crazed lore bard when it seems like that's the expected of bards? I don't subscribe to that. Maybe that was what the perception of bards was back in the day, but you don't have to be lust-driven, sex animal bard. I mean, you're a lore bard. You're a nerd. You're a book nerd. That's what you are. You're craving lore. Like, that's your whole thing. Play him as a bookish nerd who has a high charisma. You know, like the sexy nerd guy, if you want, that's how you perceive charisma. Or maybe they're super intimidating, or, you know, a smooth talker, but they don't have to be sexual or you know, lust driven. Lore bards seek out forgotten bits of lore. Read the little blurb about lore bard, right? You're seeking the secrets of the world, you know, as a, in theory, right? This is the problem I hate with the way they word bards in 5e. You went to college to study more things about other obscure things. You should be the nerdiest person, in my mind. Do these streams happen often? Not particularly. I try to do these when I can, but it just really is a function of time and how often I have free time to do it. Ran Frost Maiden, where are my ice toads? and snowflake slimes? Good question, I guess. Do you have any advice on running a more horror-oriented campaign for 5e? You got to know your players, right? And you got to set that expectation that it's horror-themed, right? I have players in my game, and some of them are not horror fans, so I'm not going to run a horror game for them because it just won't be fun. Also, if you have a bunch of people that love to like joke around, not that this is to say that they can't change, but if you have people that are really kind of making puns and doing jokes and being silly, you know, I feel like to run a true horror campaign, you need to have people that are willing to embrace that this is a horror campaign and should be treated as such. That's my hardest thing, is I can't find people who would enjoy a horror campaign, because they need to know that going in. Do you know of any competent tool to estimate and counterbalance? No, I just wing it. Ghostwalk is a campaign setting, good to know. If the 3 old settings we're getting happen to be Spelljammer, would you be able to make a mix and match of things they give us in that book and the sci-fi setting you helped out? Yeah, I could probably do that. Which, by the way, I think the beta is out for Blackstorm Realms, and there may be another one coming soon. Do you like to eat poop? No, Otoro. Do you like to be banned? For new users, it's better to start a campaign or with quick missions. I'd say for new players, rather, I would say start with maybe like a one shot or like a small mission. Get them acclimated, get them understanding how their powers work and what the different things they can do, and then you might run and roll into a campaign. Best spells in D&D for Magic Initiate. I think I did a whole video on that. For the different classes. What subclass would you choose on a Hill Dwarf Monk with Durable and Dwarven Fortitude and a parry? This is really difficult. We live in a difficult time where you release a campaign setting book and then that's it. If you know anything about the other campaign settings back in the day, they'd release the campaign guide or the player's guide and then a ton of supplemental material to help you run stuff in it. When you have one book to go off of, it's kind of like, well, I better go read those old books so I can get more lore and know how to build stuff. And that's kind of a problem in my mind. If you enjoy /crazy movies, there's a great site called I'm writing that down, Weird366, that has a bunch of articles on literally hundreds of strange movies. I'll check it out for sure. What's with the ladder in the background? Yeah, so I just need to bring it upstairs and I haven't brought it up. The ladder is because I was working in my new studio that I'm building next door, and I needed something to support the mass-loaded vinyl that I was putting on the walls. Mass-loaded vinyl is a specially treated fiberglass/lead-filled vinyl material that has the capability to turn sound waves into heat. It is a soundproofing material. The stuff that I had is a 1/4 inch thick. Yeah, I think it's 1/4 inch thick. And it weighs 1 pound per square foot. And it's a 30-foot by 4.5-foot long roll. And trying to put it on a wall that's 8 feet high and run it down, it's extremely heavy. So I used the ladder to help support it. And I just haven't brought the ladder back upstairs. The only real horror in 5e is Rime of the Frost Maiden and Curse of Strahd, but without a DM that knows horror, yeah, it's true. Do you want and hope Watsy produce a Dragonlance campaign setting? I'm telling you it's coming. Just give it time. Later this year. I guarantee you it will be released this year. Have you played any of the D&D board games? I have not. I've heard good things. I have not played Castle Ravenloft or Legend of Drizzt. How do you handle mid to high level mage fights? As in, I'm throwing mages at the party, or the party are mages? Counterspell, multiple people with counterspell is always a good way to handle that. That can shut down. That can just basically blow through spell slots. Kingler has I know Kingler has a Gigantamax form, and I agree. I know that that's cool, and I'm a fan of Kingler's Gigantamax form, but I would have rather had a Mega Evolution or an additional evolution, because I don't love Gigantamax as like a mechanic. I think Mega Evolutions were done well. I thought Z moves were kind of dumb. I liked Mega Evolution. That was like Mega Evolutions, and the X and Y gen was the last one that had me like really in, right? I was obviously huge into Pokemon Red and Blue, right? It came out, I was 13, 12, 13. Huge fan of Red and Blue. Golden, Silver, amazing. Loved those. I sunk hundreds of hours into Pokemon Silver. I loved it. Ruby and Sapphire, I was a fan of. Gen 4, dove hard back in. Gen 5, I didn't care. Like, I just didn't. I was not interested in Pokemon Black and White and Pokemon Black 2 and White 2. I just had no interest. I don't know why. They just didn't catch me, didn't pull me in. But then, man, did I dive hard back into X and Y. And I was getting into the competitive battle scene and, you know, training and breeding and going hardcore into that. And then Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, or Sun and Moon in general, both of those, I wasn't like a huge fan of either of those. I didn't like get really into it. Let's go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. Obviously, I'm a big fan because it's red and blue and it was on the Switch, and the Pokeball controller is awesome. That was great for kids too. Throw a Pokeball. And then Sword and Shield, more into it than I had been in some of the other ones. But I, you know, just the Dynamax, Gigantamax mechanic just seemed funky to me. Am I watching the Digimon Adventure reboot? No, I haven't watched it. I was never a huge Digimon guy. I was always big into Pokemon. So, I'm afraid they're going to oversaturate the market, forcing out more D&D books quickly. It's a possibility. I don't deny that, but I think we'll be okay. As a Pokemon fan and a D&D fan, have you ever wanted to, or have you played the official but comprehensive Pokemon 5e game? I've looked at the rule set, because if you know anything about my original campaign, and it's actually now we're following up with that, so just something to consider. I basically gave one of my players what he thought was a dragon egg, and it was a Charmander egg. It ended up, it was a long, there's more to that. But basically, I used the 5e Pokemon rules for like catching and training a Pokemon to basically, he now had, eventually got a Charizard, right? It's like a NPC character that he had. And we actually, in the process, long story, in the campaign we're in now, which takes place in my homebrew world but has plane hopping, they're finishing, those characters are back, and they're finishing the game from 5 years ago. So the Charizard is back. What levels do you like to run as a DM? I like 5 to like 12. That's probably my favorite, but I also enjoy high level play because it can be fun. Have I ever heard or played an online game called Card Hunter? It's pretty fun as an old school D&D aesthetic. I have not. Have I ever played a character above 20th level? No. Never. As a foolish 17-year-old, when I started designing my D&D character that we were playing, you know, my first ever character, I looked at the epic level stuff and had plans to take that character to epic level. So I started like taking feats at lower levels in preparation for epic level Druid gameplay. And obviously we stopped at level 12. So, are there any feats you'd like to see in a future book? Yeah, more feats like similar to Chef and Poisoner for every other toolkit. Top 10 reasons why there is not a Spelljammer or a Dragonlance video. Because they're not out yet. And that's times 10. Have I watched JoJo's... from what you know, how is Black Storm Realms coming along? Good. The beta, if you join the Jetpack 7, I think it's their Discord. But I know if you had it, I think the beta was released. I thought like one of the early betas was put out there, I believe, so you could see some of the stuff. My draft Paladin subclass is in, and I've been in the process of reviewing the different mechanics for like 5e balance. So we've been going through doing that on and off. So I think that I don't know what the projected release date is, though, at this point. I have not watched JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and I feel like I'm going to get a lot of shit for that, so I'm going to probably add that to my list to watch. A little bit of MTG I didn't really care for. Combining the two could also drive some people away. It could, but I don't think it will. Could you rank all the 5e campaign settings? Maybe in a video. I'll write campaign ranking video. So I will do that. It's because we're maybe I'll wait till Candlekeep comes out and then I'll rank them after that. What's the funniest character idea you've ever heard? Sir Barrington. Look it up. Scrolling back up. Sorry, folks. Catching up. Kind of okay. Psychic Scream is a good big bad evil guy. Yeah, definitely. Just say you really enjoy the content. Thank you. Do you have any favorite Pokemon? Yes. If I have any favorite Pokemon, not just including Kingler, Venusaur, really Bulbasaur, but what we're gonna do is Venusaur, Caesar, Typhlosion, Chandelure, Snorlax, Vivian, Noivern, Galvantula. That's just a couple. Do you like the Greyhawk setting? I don't actually know that much about it. So, like, I know a little bit from what I've picked up. So I'm curious to see how they would handle a Greyhawk campaign setting. Yeah, Watsy left the Purple Dragon Knight in the dirt. I'm glad you mentioned Blade Singer, Lagman special spells. I'm using your Force Repulse spell. Yeah, Force Repulse is pretty sweet. My friends and I are starting a Pokemon pen and paper game. I have to pick my starter soon. I'm gonna go either Cyndaquil or Bulbasaur. Those are my go-tos. Although I did enjoy Froakie, right? Because I like Greninja a lot. Yeah, those are my go-tos. Is Shape Water a good cantrip? It's limited by your imagination. I'm gonna say that's it. It's only limited by your imagination, which your DM will let you get away with. You can do a lot with Shape Water. The only thing I want from MTG is the MTG Monster Manual. Cool. Do you think dual creature type negatives are going to be addressed? I hope they just cut it, because it's pointless. All it is a detriment. I went on a diatribe about this earlier, but because there is no thing that says, like, if you are undead, you get X, which is a thing we had in older editions, right? If your character type was undead, it would tell you, these are the things that you have. If your character type was construct, these are the things you have. And that doesn't exist. It's in the stat block of the individual monsters, right? Certain undead are immune to necrotic damage, or certain undead are immune to poison damage, but it's not all undead. So if I'm undead and humanoid, I have nothing but detriments. And the benefits don't outweigh those detriments in my mind. So I think it's stupid. I think it made sense to cut that from Ravnica, which they did. So why did they bring it back? I don't know. What do you do if one player wants to do something that will hurt the rest of the party, but does not seem to understand? You got to talk to them. Pull them aside. Take a break. Have a conversation. Do you want to play D&D with Arcadum on Twitch? Maybe. I don't know who or what that is. So I'm going to write Arcadum down and go look it up. I live in my own sphere, folks. I very rarely branch out into other stuff. I like to use Renaissance wax on suitable display items. Do you know, is there a similar product available to help preserve display figurines, plastic or otherwise, and is still paint safe? I think I just usually use just a spray clear coat to preserve, you know, to kind of give a little wear layer basically on, and you can do matte or glossy depending on what you kind of want to do. But I don't have a specific one. I'm not the best person. You've seen my wall of unpainted minis. I'm not the best person to ask. Have you ever heard of the anime Record of Lodos Lore? It's an interesting fantasy. Well, we'll add that to the anime list. You guys are gonna give me. Their immersion videos are gonna disappear. I'm just gonna be watching anime all the time. That second edition Venture, would you like to see updated to 5e? I have to think about that. With Merles being out, it's noticeable on the books and Adventures League player. Are you concerned about removing the book limit from AL and the peace and order domain cleric combos that break the game? I don't think so. You know, we'll see. I guess we'll see how they don't have any problem retracting stuff Adventure League wise. I've had a lot of characters that were just completely invalidated because of the changes they've made. So we'll see. What is the campaign still going strong and where are you guys? We just filmed episode 112. It's Tuesday. It'll be Tuesday for my homebrew campaign. We are currently in the final missions of the campaign is wrapping up, right? They have done 3. There's 3 final missions that they kind of have done. They've completed the one that was in Ravenloft, or in Barovia. They did that one, where they had to basically cut out the dark powers. They did that, or decapitate. It was a whole thing. And now they're in Faerun and going to my homebrew version of Faerun, where they're going to Flavortown. That's a long run. I don't have enough time to explain that, but that's where they are. Host your video for the guys breaking the rules a bunch, and while those were most were really, and is possible for 8 attacks, and yeah. Hey man, I just developed a traveling gnomes magic item shop that only uses unique tokens given out for difficult quests. I like that, the concept of a token for items, so like you can't just, gold won't be a thing. Look, there's not that's a problem. There's no good rules for running a magic item shop. That's one of my biggest things. How much was my TMNT arcade cabinet? Well, this is not a traditional arcade cabinet. This is an arcade 1-up. So if you're unfamiliar, Arcade 1-up is a company that makes 3/4 scale arcade cabinets for a variety of things. I think I got this for $325. So it's not the full size, right? You can see, you might not be able to tell because I'm sitting, but it's not the full scale. It's, again, it's 3/4. It's plenty of room to get 4 people around it to play it. But there's a company, again, Arcade 1-up. They do a variety of these kind of things. They've got a bunch more of this kind of stuff coming out. And I just saw it and I needed to have it. Can everyone in the chat now hit like? Ted deserves that. Thank you, D-Doom. Appreciate it. Thank you for stopping by. What's Spelljammer? Oh, boy. 68.9K. Sneaking up on 100. We're working on it, folks. Do you think that Soul Knife Rogue scales well with levels? Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's like using a short bow your whole time, or short swords your whole time, which a lot of rogues end up doing, right? If you don't have proficiency with a longbow, or you don't want to use a crossbow. I don't actually think rogues get, I don't know. Well, anyway, a lot of people are gonna be using either a rapier in one hand, dual short swords, or a short bow, and the your standard attack's gonna be a D6 and then a D4. So I think it's okay. Have you watched WandaVision? Yes, I am very much enjoying WandaVision, and I am up to date. So I have enjoyed that. It's nice to have MCU stuff back in my life. It's been a part of, really, for a lot of folks, especially folks younger than me, the majority of your life, there's been Marvel Cinematic Universe content all the time, right? Like a third of my life, there's been MCU content, which is wild to me, right? And to have it just disappear because of, everything that happened and then COVID, it's nice to have this. And I don't mind the weekly content. I grew up with TV, right? That was how it worked. So I like it. I'm definitely more excited for Van Richten than I am for Candlekeep. Immovable Rod is a cool magic item to throw the balance out the window because it can be gone with Epic Sword. Yeah, agreed. Gen 4 Rise Up, what up? If you were a Pokemon trainer, what 6 would make up your team? Venusaur, Caesar. Let's be real. If I'm going to make a team, it's going to be for battling. It's not going to be for my own. Unless we're getting into, like, what would the team you'd want to have for living in the Pokemon world. But if I'm going to make up a team for battling, Chandelure, Venusaur, Caesar, Excadrill, Rotom Wash. Fine, what am I missing? Greninja. That's usually that was my Gen 6 battle team was Greninja, Mega Venusaur, Caesar, Chandelure, Excadrill, and Rotom Wash. I actually don't even remember what my team is in that Sword and Shield because I haven't played it in so long. So I mean, there might be some subbing in there. I also really love bug Pokemon. Bug Pokemon are my favorite type of Pokemon. So I did actually have a really good bug-only team. And that could obviously have been supplemented with some of the newer Pokemon. But that's what I would love to be. I'd love to be a bug gym leader. And that's why I keep holding out for the concept of like an open world, truly MMO style Pokemon game where you can make your own gym. And that would be a thing I would love to do. I would love to be a Pokemon, a gym leader, be a bug gym leader, or be a professor and just study stuff. I know this is not the way MMOs really work, but that would be what I would want to do. Yes, I backed Kibble Tasty's Kickstarter. I'm excited for it. Dude, are you an insomniac? No, I actually sleep very well. Like, if my head hits the pillow, I'm out immediately. What do you believe our guest Watsy's strategy will be if they publish 5 books a year? I talked about it a little bit earlier, but I think they might start sneaking in more DM-only content. Do you think that Watsy will ever bring back deities and demigods? I hope so. Did you back 2C Gaming's Epic Legacy Tome of Titans? Yes. What do you think of a Hex-Blooded Kenku? Could be interesting. Balance of a player-friendly DM or an egotistical DM is real. Accurate. What's your best and worst investment for Kickstarter? My best investment for Kickstarter? Probably any of the Cobalt Press stuff were my best investments. My personal worst investments would probably be like I bought like the adventuring, like one of these like a dragon scale dice box that was like this cool thing. I forget what it was called. Tabletop Artisans, I think, was the company, and I just never use it. So that's just like I spent money on this thing for Kickstarter. It's a good product. I just never use it, so it was just a waste of money for me. Yeah, talked about Spelljammer. Yeah, I hope they do. Has anyone ever asked your thoughts on having more monster options for the DM? Yeah, I think we should get another monster manual or a Volos or a Mordenkainen and something like that. Okay, verbal spells are a challenge for me. I can do the hand motions. Makes sense. One of DM I play with decided to award 0 XP for random encounters to balance the XP game. Ha! Yeah. You know, don't include random encounters then, I guess, right? If you don't want to give people stuff for them. It's just a weird concept. Yeah, yes, the mass combat stuff. I have looked at, or I've heard of it. I haven't looked at that specific one. How often do I do these AMAs? It's random. I try to do them, you know, I did them a bunch right before Tasha's came out, but there's enough of you guys in here that keeps it interesting, so I usually do it whenever. It's 1 o'clock in the morning for me. I started this at around midnight. And it's just random whenever I can. Character idea, Lizardfolk Dampier who uses the bite and blood magic thoughts. Sounds good. You're gonna make him a paladin, so he can also smite bite. Any options on a rogue, opinions rather, on a rogue 1, Shadow Monk 6, Hexblade 1? Interesting. You got a lot of spread on your ability scores, right? You gotta have a 13 dex, a 13 charisma, and a 13 wisdom just to be able to play that class. So just keep that in mind. I think I'd have the 13 wisdom. Monk might not. I don't remember. I've got an artificer who's doing a super soldier project, and I'm trying to remember special metal materials and the like from older editions. Star metal, glass steel, ironwood. Those are the ones that come to mind. Why don't you check out the Arms and Equipment Guide from 3.5? That would be a good place to start. Bards are lore keepers. Oh, bye. We're just catching up to the lore bard content. God, man. I hate how slow YouTube is. Yeah. Played a Gladiator College of Swords bard. He had the flaw that he talked about pretty faces, but instead of flirting with people, just, yeah, totally cool. Grung Genie, use your lamp to hydrate yourself. That's definitely an option. That's not a bad one. Do I sleep? Yes, but not as much. I require less sleep than a normal person to survive. Do you think they'll make an MTG monster manual? I hope so. I'd be down. I was planning on a College of Lore Bard Scribe Wizard multi-class combo. Now that seems perfect for what we were talking about. What Kickstarter early accesses were the worst and best investments for you? Again, I kind of covered that a little bit. I don't really do much that gets me like early access stuff. I have yet to have any Macallans or Blue Label, hopefully soon. If you want, try Peated Scotch. I recommend Ardbeg or Lagavulin 16-year. Okay. Adding those to this other. My list of random stuff that I have going on here is very interesting. To echo one of the comments I saw in the investors video post, do you sleep? You do sleep. Yes, I do. Promise. Do you have any character concept that you would really like to play but can never play? Yeah, any rogue of any kind I would love to play. Have not had a chance to do that. Would you like materials like deep crystal and cold iron? Yes, I think magical materials are integral to a fun gameplay. I would love to have a list of magical materials. I started playing D&D with 7 one-shots. One-shots are the best way to learn a new system. Yep. Yes, I do sleep. What would your thoughts be if they did a campaign design guide that helped DMs plan campaigns better? Yeah, I think it would be amazing, but I don't think they'll release it. It's great, though. The Genie Warlock only needs 10 minutes to sleep. Yeah, well, you know, I could do a lot with power naps, but... Have you accidentally set fire to your DM notes on some ambiance candles? No, I have not. I actually don't use candles because right now all the games I stream, all the games I play, I stream, and candles and low light would be bad for business. Would I rather have Dark Sun or Greyhawk? I think Dark Sun because it should lead to more interesting class options available. If you were to build yourself as a character in 5e, what would you be? I would have said back in the day, unfortunately, a ranger, because that was who I kind of was and who I identified with. But a lot of people tell me they think I'd be a bard now, which I guess I can't really argue with that concept. Rise of Tmnt. Having run it, what bit should I cut out? I really want to run Zonthal's Tower. Zonthal's Tower is good. You could probably cut out the there's like the Thay bit. I can't remember I don't think that's Zonthal's Tower, the bit where you go to like visit Thay. You could probably cut that out. I think, or unless that is Zonthal's Tower, then obviously don't cut that. You could cut out most of the random encounter stuff, like in between sessions. It's tricky though. Your players are also going to have a lot of money in Rise of Tmnt, so you got to come up with a way for them to use it, because this is just going to be a waste. They're killing dragons and getting dragon hordes. Figure out how you're going to spend the money. How would I run a Hex-Blooded Kenku? I don't know. I don't really do Kenku because I don't like that they gave them mimicry only. They used to have like actual voices. So I don't really have a good option on running Kenku in general. I would prefer Dark Sun. What do you think of the Drakenheim book coming out later this year? Drakenheim? I'm not familiar. Do you think they'll have sub-races or something similar for lineages? I think it's just going to be lineages from now on. How open am I reviewing to homebrew stuff? I'm open, but I don't have a lot of time. So I love reviewing stuff, but I just don't have as much time as I would like to do it. How does Druid play compared to other full casters? I've only played arcane casters. I've never played a Druid in 5e. It's still too soon for me. How much I love my 3/5 Druid, it's still too soon to try and play a 5e Druid, and there's just nothing as close to what I used to play. Unless you're talking about Baldur's Gate 3. And then if you're talking about Baldur's Gate 3 Druid, then it's actually really fun. If I were to build myself, what race and class, I'd probably be a human. Although some of you would argue that I'm an elf, because apparently I don't sleep, so I must just use trance for 4 hours to get a long rest. And I guess Bard. What are your thoughts on the Oath of the Storm Paladin? Have you seen Middlefinger Vecna's version of it? I have not, but I'll look. Favorite starter for each gen. Okay. Let me make sure I get them all correctly. It would be Bulbasaur. It would be Cyndaquil. Here we go. Bulbasaur, Cyndaquil, Trico, Turtwig, Snivy, Froakie, Rowlet, Sobble. Yeah, that's the order right now. Yep. There you go. One more time. That's Bulbasaur, Cyndaquil, Trico, Turtwig, Snivy, Froakie, Rowlet, Sobble. I like grass Pokemon starters mostly. What's your dream 5e setting if you could choose anything and it gets the proper support? These questions, guys, this is how YouTube is so slow. I'm scrolling up. I'm probably not even close to your current questions. I'm reading them from further back in the YouTube chat. That's where the questions are coming from. What is your dream 5e setting if I could choose anything? I don't know. It's hard to say. Just one with fleshed out systems for crafting and magic, honestly. Do you think there's a bit too much of weird power balance when it comes to martial versus spellcasting classes, where making a really OP caster is relatively easy while martial isn't? Yeah, it's tricky. I still think casters clearly outweigh martials in every way. Does this sound like a good idea for a barbarian that has burn scars, goes into a rage, the burn scars glow as if flames, we're still licking our flesh, a steamroller? I think it sounds great, Mango. I think it's awesome. Talked about D&D and MTG merging or sharing customers, so thoughts on the Planeswalker homebrews for D&D, if you know of them. I've done a couple of reviews of them in the past, so I thought they were okay. They were in a weird balance state at a time, so I don't know where they stand now. We might think they're either on par or underpowered. Favorite color? Orange, obviously. Scrolling back. Hang on. Favorite color is orange. Yep. Just downloaded the beta material today. Haven't read through it, but I'm currently running Dark Matter. Yeah. Enjoy Blackstorm Realms. Hopefully, we'll get it out soon. Gloomstalker's ability to be invisible to creatures with dark vision. How would you run this? What happens if they go down? Can their friends find them? Interesting. I think they can't. I think that'd be hilarious that you have to light a torch to find them. That's so funny. What a classic campaign setting should they bring to 5e? Again, probably Spelljammer at this point. I've been playing D&D for 35 years. I've never played Magic the Gathering, so yeah, I've never played Magic either. So don't consider me a Magic fan, because I'm not. Like, my knowledge of Magic the Gathering is from what I get from these books. And what I get from these books are options, and I like options. How to run a high-level caster's battle. Yeah, team with more counter spells wins, absolutely. I do plan on using MTG Planeswalkers. JoJo's pretty weird but good. What are your thoughts on start playing? I haven't gone back to use start playing in a while. I just don't have the time, folks. I would love to run more start playing games. I thought it was great when I was doing it. I was running games every Friday. It was fun. Kept me busy, kept my mind sharp. I'm just not, I just don't have the time right now. Sir Barrington from the Completionist Chronicles. I'm not sure what it's from, but I've known about it for a long time. Have I watched Goblin Slayer? No, but that one I have heard of at least. So I'll add that to my ever-growing list of now animes to watch. Have I heard of Pun Pun? Yes, of course. I use the Greyhawk Pantheon, but other than that, I don't use Greyhawk. You were literally 30 minutes behind. Yep, sounds about right. Playing Curse of Strahd. What should I do? Race class. I like Light Cleric, Wood Elf Light Cleric, Half Elf Devotion Paladin, maybe, to immune the charm of vampires. What I think of the Swashbuckler subclass? It's one of the better designed ones. Doing a Critical Role animated series, do you think it's possible there will ever be a live action series or film of Critical Role? Maybe. We know there's going to be a live action D&D movie, and we know the new Wizards of the Coast Entertainment division. But I don't know how that works, right? Because they're licensed through Amazon. So Amazon, I don't know how that's going to work. I mean, maybe. I don't think anything's impossible. How would you rule a level 11 fighter extra attack and Blade Singer level 6 extra attack? Oh, I see. You're talking about the spell and then the extra attacks? I'd have to read how it says with the Blade Singer to give you an idea. The way Blade Singer is written now, that's a tricky question. I think there was a ruling on this somewhere. You can attack twice instead of once whenever you take the attack action on your turn. Moreover, you can cast one of your cantrips in place of one of those attacks. So I think you could cast a cantrip in place of one of your attacks, and you could attack 3 times total. So cantrip, 2 attacks, I think is how that works. How would you homebrew an Oath of the Storm Paladin? Kind of Thor, I'm assuming. I'd have to think about it. It's not something I'll be able to answer now. Can't wait for those Nerd Immersion anime reviews. Listen, if I had time, I'd do a whole review channel. I have so many things I want to review. Video games and comic books. That's originally how Nerd Immersion started. Was I wanted to talk about and review things that wasn't... Because again, I did this earlier, but I'll do it again. I started on the internet as a playing, like in the... how you see me on the internet with Guild Wars 2, right? I was a huge fan of Guild Wars 1. I met a really awesome bunch of people. We had a really solid, powerful, passionate guild. We were jazzed for Guild Wars 2. It came out. We played a ton of it. We had guild and raid nights, and we had a forum, and we had, the fanfic website still exists where people write fanfiction for Guild Wars 2. It's called chroniclesoftyria.com. And we eventually started a podcast called Chronicles of Tyria Podcast. The YouTube channel still exists, COT Podcast on YouTube. You can see me from like 2012 with no gray hair and much younger in my old basement, not this one. And eventually, as time grew on, the release of X and Y, for example, was like, I really wanted to talk about Pokemon, but it was a Guild Wars 2 stuff. And then the game, they made decisions I didn't love in the game. So the podcast eventually ended after like 100 or so episodes, I think. I just made Nerd Immersion because I wanted to talk about other things that I liked. But the problem is I was too broad spectrum. In my mind, Nerd Immersion was going to be like a Cinemassacre or like an IGN where we'd cover everything and like talk about stuff. We do games, we do movies, we do comic books, TV series, convention coverage, cosplay tutorials. And that's like, again, I wouldn't recommend going to nerdimmersion.com right now because it's kind of a mess. And I need to just like completely shut it down and overhaul it. But like that's how things used to be. I used to do movie reviews and book reviews and tutorials for conventions and cosplay and stuff. You'll see that stuff if you look back at the original videos here on the channel. It was like convention coverage and like how to make a dress form mannequin to make costumes and how to do resin casting and all this other kind of stuff. And I would love to review all of that, but it's just me, folks. Like I do the editing, I do the uploading, I do the thumbnails. It's 100% anything you see on Nerd Immersion, with the exception of like the other people who physically show up on the streams. It's all me, right? Everything, every social media post you see, every video you see, every live stream where you see changing of like camera angles and all that stuff. It's all done by me, 100% in-house. I don't have any help. So I can't commit to do more stuff. So if you think about everything that I do here, tack on a 40-hour-a-week plus job, including emergency response, and 2 kids under 4, I just don't have time to do more reviews. I know you were just like kidding, but I would love to do anime reviews and other stuff. I just don't have the time. Do not play Warhammer 40k because I don't have the time. Chat recommends anime and video ideas. Ted takes notes. Ted, I haven't listened to modern music in 10 years. I live in my own sphere. What are your thoughts on the alt covers for Candlekeep and Van Richten? Candlekeep I like. Van Richten I could leave it. I'm not a huge fan. Rank the alt covers. Rank alt covers. Okay. All the Hydra 74 ones are going to come out on top. Do you think you ever go back to that D&D game? They've been texting me. Asking me if I'm coming back, and I've been busy lately, so I haven't been able to. I might go back and give it a try again, and just see. Pick a Saturday, go back, see how it works out. Give it a shot, right? Maybe it'll be fun. Maybe things will have changed. Maybe he'll have seen my video. Who knows? What is a setting you would like to have for 5e, and maybe others are overlooking? I'm Ghost Walk seems like a fun one. They really need to update magic item stuff for 5e in general? Yes. You live in your own sphere. How did I meet Jordan? Gen Con. Because conventions were my networking. That's what I would treat conventions. Conventions for me were work. They were fun, yes, but they were work primarily. And I would use conventions to network. And that's how I met Celeste, the Venture Maidens. That's how I met Jordan. That's how I met Cody from Taking 20. That's how I met the folks from Jetpack 7. That's how I met a lot of the people that I interact with and talk to. Almost all of them were through conventions and things like that. And that conventions, I get so much use out of conventions and networking. That's how I met with, Elderwood Academy and all these folks that I have great working relationships with. WizKids, how I got on the WizKids list to get emails and minis. All that stuff was all because of the work I would put in at conventions, networking, meeting with people, going out to bars, having drinks. And the biggest growth, which is just it just hurts a lot, actually. The biggest growth of my channel and like a giant boom in subscribers and numbers and clout all came in a year when I couldn't go to a convention. And it sucks. Because the amount of work that I would be able to do now with the channel, the size it has, and the engagement, and you guys being so engaged is amazing. And I just can't. And it hurts. I'm a little bummed out about it. Yeah, I met Jordan at a meetup, a YouTuber meetup at Gen Con like 2 or 3 years ago. I went there, I met Jordan, I met Cody from Taking 20. If you guys remember Dawn Forge cast, I met Andrew Armstrong, I met the Nerdarchy guys. All that was all from a couple of meetups at Gen Con. How available are public bathrooms in your homebrew world? I haven't thought about it, so I guess not at all. What do you do if a PC gets an NPC pregnant? Any ideas what to do? You have to allow that. You, as the DM, have to allow that to be a thing, to even have that happen. So I would just not have that be an issue. I don't want to deal with, like, that kind of a concept in my games. Maybe if that's a thing you want, go for it. I don't have a right answer for you on how to deal with pregnancy in games. I know there's people that make people roll for pregnancy and stuff like that. The only time I ever had a character get pregnant, it was an NPC, and it was a goddess. It was the fertility goddess, the dwarven fertility goddess, and it was with one of the main characters of the campaign, and we needed to come up with a reason why he wasn't there, and his thought was like, oh, he gets called away by the fertility goddess because they just cleansed her whole temple of like bad evil creatures. And he's like, oh, I just went away with the fertility goddess. So at some point it was a fun character hook that his daughter showed up, and she's a demigod. So she's the fertility goddess is like, what did you think? This wouldn't happen. I'm the fertility goddess. But I also had, because I had the demigod grow in an expanded rate so that it wouldn't be like an issue. So like they met with her, and like we're gonna try to raise her, but then she ended up growing like ridiculously fast. So like within 2 weeks' time, she was like a 20-year-old. But with like ridiculous power. And it was actually kind of fun because I had my wife play the daughter, like in a mission. It was really fun. But that was a very specific scenario, and I knew what I was getting into because I know this is my friend I've known for 35 years, or 33 years. So I knew what I was getting into. But a yellow work suit on the arcade machine. Those are far worse things in this world. Okay. Do I like Attack on Titan? I watched the first season, and I enjoyed that. Several great magic item third party. Yeah, DM's Guild has a lot of great magic item shop stuff. Have you ever made your fixed Warlock video? No, it's on the list. Favorite X-Men? My gut always wants to jump immediately to Wolverine. But I think it's probably Gambit. I like Gambit a lot. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Gambit. Do I have any tattoos? Nope, none. Do you think the Mysteries in Candlekeep will be as long as one-shots or longer? I think they're probably gonna end it. They could be a one-shot if run optimally, but I think you might get like 2 sessions out of 1, depending on how it goes. How often do I run your Combat Theater of the Mind? More often than I'd actually like to. I have so many minis and terrain, and I would love to do that, but more often than not, I'm just strapped for time, so I don't have time to build the scenarios. Or I don't know what people are going to get into, like what kind of like combat they're going to get involved in, so I don't have things built. So more often than not, it's Theater of the Mind. Next thing is Planescape. How would you rule fear effects triggering Booming Blade? If they are moving by their own choice, then yeah, that happens. Like, so if it's Dissonant Whispers and they have to run, it triggers Booming Blade. I'm starting a Sage-heavy campaign with the chosen backgrounds. Look like archaeology is going to be a huge focus. Any tips for building dungeons or archaeological quests? Interesting. So like an Indiana Jones style thing. You know, there was I thought there was some supplements out there about like geology and archaeology. They were Kickstarters. I don't know how they did though. What do you think about official module adventures or other settings like Ravnica or Eberron? I never got into those. I've never run any of the stuff from them, but I use the content, like the magic items and the subclasses and the races. So that's about the extent that I get use out of them now. What do you think of the homebrew rule where DMs roll death saving throws hidden from the players to prevent metagaming and add some tension? I like it a lot, actually. So, fairly new GM, about what level do you start handing out magic weapons? Not sure where the combat balancing equation's expected. So it's hard to say, because if you look at the DMG, it's like you shouldn't have any magic items till like level 11. I don't trust that table, because if you play any of their pre-written adventures, they're giving stuff out way earlier. You want to have probably around level 5 or so. Plate mail for your plate mail wheelers should be something they should have access to. And around there, you might want to have magic weapons for the marshals so that they can stay up with the casters. So I say around level 5. Any thoughts on how classes like Hexblade and Battlesmith allowing you to change your attack stat affects game balance? I did my one thing about Bladesinger a while back, how I feel like Bladesinger probably should have done the same thing as Intelligence. But that gives us a Charisma one and a Intelligence one, so I think we're prime for a Wisdom-based one. Maybe a Cleric, maybe a Druid. Don't know. What subclass you feel is sorely missing or would want most? Dragon, Patron, Warlock. I'm not sure if you already answered this more than a few times, but what would be your preferred third campaign setting? I'm gonna go with Spelljammer or Ghostwalk. How would you run crafting? I don't have a great answer for you, Game Freak, but I would say take a look at. There's a couple of good DM's Guild supplements. I'm curious about this Kibble Tasty Kickstarter. I backed it because I'm curious to see how it would work. If you could make a Scout subclass for another class, which class would you want it to be? A Scout type subclass. Okay. I'm not entirely sure what you mean. You mean like it's a class that fills another class's role? I'm not entirely sure what you mean. My favorite class to play as is a Paladin, although I do enjoy Clerics and Bards. Have the whole live stream posted to Facebook. Why? They're all on YouTube. You can go back and view them. You just gotta click on the live tab. When you go to my videos, if you go to the channel and the videos, there's like next to it is a button that says live, and you can click that and the whole live stream's there. Pathfinder is a much better crafting system. Okay, maybe look into that. Do you think, what do you think the Shadowfell Feywild? Which tips would you give for a better world building in those planes? Are those planes worthy of a book in your opinion? Yeah, I think a planar book is a book we need. Favorite chromatic and metallic dragon? Silver dragon and green dragon. Any tips for building a good dungeon? There are some actual stuff in the DMG where you can build a random dungeon. I don't know how good it is, though. I've never done it. Drakkenheim is a Dungeon Dudes campaign. Oh, okay. It's a city that was destroyed by an interplanetary meteor made of magic. They're collaborating with the same company that made Gloomhaven. Gloomhaven. Oh, okay. The board game. Interesting. Okay, cool. I'll keep an eye on this for that. Have you ever read the Head of Vecna story? I have not. Head of Vecna? Reading it now. I'll add it to the list. Head of Vecna story. Okay. When is this live stream ending? When it's over. I don't have an answer for you. I don't know when I'm going to stop it. It's just go until I'm done. This man is constantly renovating his house / game space and working with power lines, and you people have him as a bard. True. Can you give us another vid on house rules, particular as to the OP combos? Well, house rules and OP combos, that's a little bit different, right? Because a house rule, you can't guarantee you're going to have access to house rules, and OP combos are different. Have you ever played any Judges Guild? No, but I've heard of it, actually, quite a bit, and I have not. I remember reading some of the stuff. What would be a theme you would like to see a new book based around? Crafting! At this point. There's a big old crafting guild in the Forgotten Realms that gives us a hard crafting system. Great answer on the Strahd build. Run a good cleric or paladin. Make him come to you. Detect him when he's sneaking. Yeah. Yep. Have I seen? Yes, I have seen Fairy Tail. That is an anime I have seen. So, there we go. Which one of your videos would you recommend for a growing DM? Oh, boy. The Homebrew rules videos. That would be a good one to start with. I'm literally listening to this in the background as I play Guild Wars 2. Well, I don't know. Hold the line. I'm a guardian. That was my class. So, or, you know, gosh. I'm trying to remember things. There was the guy from, oh God, I can't even remember. I haven't played Guild Wars 2 in so long. Have you used the variant rule for making dragons spellcasters? Yes, I have. Because I think dragons are sorely underpowered in 5th edition. I ran a big, massive dragon fight with an ancient black dragon where the party mobilized a townsfolk. It actually exists on Nerd Immersion Plays. I think it's on Nerd Immersion Plays. But it's interesting because they rewrote the timeline with a Deck of Many Things card, so that fight never happened. Do you think the one action to doff don a shield, as written in the PHB, is balanced correctly? You know, it's never come up, I'll be honest, that I've ever had to worry about it. Ted, I totally understand not having time with a full-time job and a YouTube channel. Yeah, I get it, man. It's a lot. Ted must be a level 20 barbarian because he's that 24 constitution score. Yeah, or I can just get more done with a 4-hour long rest, so maybe I'm actually an elf. I always use Guild Wars 2 as the basis for my homebrew world. I actually was going to run a Guild Wars 2 D&D 5e campaign. I started designing all of the races, you know, the Norn, the Sylvari, and all that into D&D 5e, and I was going to run it for my Guild Wars 2 friends who hadn't played D&D before. I was going to run a game for them, a Guild Wars 2 campaign. I was going to try to pitch it to ArenaNet and do a whole thing, and it just never went anywhere. Yeah. Yeah, I like to use a lot of the stuff from Guild Wars 2 where I can, because or Guild Wars in general, because none of my players know it, so it's fun. What class, subclass would you consider your youngins to be? Are you excited to run a game for them? Oh my god, I'm so excited. My oldest is the one night I was put him to bed, and he wanted me to read him a story, and I was like, oh, I don't want to walk all the way across the room into the books and find a book on the shelf, and like his brother's in the room trying to sleep already, and like I don't want to turn on the light to read a book. So I'm like, how about I just tell you a story? So I made up a story, and the next night he asked me to make up a story, and then I said, well, how about we make it a game? And he's like, how does that work? And I said, well, make up a character, and then I would present him with options and ask him how he would go about doing things, like a high-level rules, no dice. You know, what do you do? Where do you go? Who do you talk to? How do you deal with these things? And he loves it. And he thinks that that's what Dungeons and Dragons is. And he loves my minis, and he always tells me like that. I'm so excited to tell you about my character. And he's always drawing me treasure maps to use for my games and coming up with concepts for me to throw at my players. So he's into it. He's 100% down. For him, I think he would be a fighter. Maybe an Eldritch Knight fighter, because he loves swords and weapons, but also a little magic. And my little guy would be an artificer with guns. Doesn't matter what. And one of his 15 words that he knows how to say right now is gun. because we have Nerf guns and like laser tag guns, and he loves them. He thinks they're amazing. So he would absolutely be some sort of gunsmith. What's up, Bob Productions? How you doing? How far along in the writing process do you think you need to be before launching a project on Kickstarter? Comfortable enough that you feel like you'll have enough time with a reasonable, that you'll have enough time to have a quality product. I also highly recommend, if you're going to launch it, having some sort of beta or early things people can look at to get an idea for what you're looking for. Whether it's a preview adventure, sample text, something like that. Hey Ted, seems I caught this one, the other was short. If you had to choose one dice set to choose all your rolls from now on, what would it be? My standard orange Chessex dice. This is the legendary orange die that murders my players. Just my regular, my standard orange Chessex dice. I bought these. Orange is my favorite color. This was my original set, was this sort of Chessex sort of like red shiny. Or no, actually it wasn't these. It was like a red and black. Kind of reminded me of Deadpool with gold text. And I used those. And then randomly one day I saw these, like I was scrolling through Amazon and this just like popped up in my recommended feed. So I bought them. And this die rolls amazingly. And this is what I use. Like it sucks to me. Honestly, it was a natural 20. Because I have so many cool sets of dice from so many cool people and cool friends who make dice, and all these people are sending me dice, and dice companies want to work with me and sponsor stuff, and it's awesome. But I only use the same set of dice, so it's kind of always seems like a waste. You grew up in the 90s and such. What are your thoughts on the Stargate universe? I never really got up into Stargate. I watched the movies, both movies, and that was the extent of my Stargate knowledge. Worst mechanic in D&D, and what other system or better does a version? Crafting and any other system. Any details on that Spellsinger class? Oh God, no, that's such on the back burner. I would love to. Honestly, I forgot about it till you just said it. I'm gonna write that down. Spellslingers. This was my like gunslinger version of yeah, I forgot about it, honestly. So thank you for reminding me. How would you handle taming an animal or beast in D&D for a player that is not a ranger? Obviously animal handling, maybe survival or nature. And then just look at the real world, how you tame animals in the real world, right? Associate yourself with positive things, food, things like that. Interactions don't have to be long, but focus on positive interactions. I might give you food and you're less spooked now, right? I might give you food, put food in my hand, maybe you come and eat it out of my hand. Maybe I give you food and I'm able to like scratch your neck or under your chin or something. And I do this and I just focus on positive interactions. This is how people tame animals in real life, right? Whether it be, something like a dog or something like a reptile or a bird. You want to focus on positive interactions. And, each time you have a positive interaction with that animal, you make yourself seem more, it's more okay around you. Being around it, but not crowding it, not being in its face, learning its signals for what means that it's nervous, it's upset, figuring that kind of stuff out and knowing how to interact is big. Existing dark vision, its range increases by 30 feet. If your range has sunlight, if your race has sunlight sensitivity, your range of dark vision doesn't increase and you suffer. I don't know what that was in reference to. When casting Steel Wind Strike and wielding a Dragon Slayer sword, do you add the damage from the magic sword? No, because Steel Wind Strike just does the damage from Steel Wind Strike. It does not do weapon damage. Would you ever consider becoming a 100% YouTuber? Yes. It was never my original intention. It was never my intention to make any money, honestly, from YouTube. It was just a project, a hobby. I have a lot of opinions on a lot of things, and I told you I wanted to do reviews. That was my whole original plan with my different stuff. So I enjoy not having it be my 100% full-time job because I'm not beholden to it. So like I could turn off Nerd Immersion tomorrow and walk away and I'd be fine. Honestly, my regular work would probably be in a better place. but COVID has made my life a lot easier to run both, because I'm home all the time. I like that I don't have to kiss up to people and, like, you know, to try to get, you know, things to make things work for me. I can be who I want to be, and I'm not, like, beholden to Watsy or anybody else to give me stuff to make content that makes me money. So that helps. But, you know, at times my work, my regular job has been, it's been trying as of late, I'll say. And more often than not lately, I've been like, I'm just keeping in my back pocket that, like, Nerd Immersion does pretty well. And if it does the trajectory that I think it will do, it could be sustainable as a solo salary. And then I would do more things like take more sponsored content, run more streams, do more start playing stuff. I would do things that could supplement the income, and I'd be probably okay. And it's just nice having that in my back pocket as, like, my regular job gets worse and worse. At times, I could just be like, well, screw you, I don't need this job, and then leave. And that's kind of refreshing to have in your back pocket. How do you deal with players that have 25 plus AC or 23 plus AC at level 5? Whoa, $50 super chat. Whoa, hold on. Let me jump up to that, because that's... Whoa, hang on. Sanctimus, dude, thank you. 100%, yes, and I'll get to your point. Eldritch Blast should be a class feature, not a cantrip. I agree 100%. Dude, Game Freak, guys, what are you doing? Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. But yeah, my golden rule of game design, just so you're aware, is this is a thing that I've often said, and I say this often when it comes to game design. If something is not a choice, don't make it an option. And in my mind, playing a warlock, Eldritch Blast is not a choice. It's a thing you should have. Yes, people will tell me, well, I play a warlock and I just use Chill Touch. I don't use Eldritch Blast. You're just trying to be contrary, right? Eldritch Blast is the clear thing you should take. It's sort of the quintessential thing of your class. And if you say no, look at how many invocations just alter Eldritch Blast, right? How many of those? So many things do focus on Eldritch Blast. It should be a class feature. You should get it at level 1. End of story. What is opinion on buffing intelligence by giving extra benefits? I have a homebrew system in place where, based on a modifier, you can learn new languages, tools. Yeah, I have the same thing in my game. You can get a new language for every positive point of intelligence modifier is what I currently run. I've also been toying with making initiative based on intelligence instead of dexterity, in that your mind has to act before your body can. And I've also been contemplating tools as well, trying up with a way to get tool proficiencies through extra intelligence, but I haven't nailed that down yet. See a bottle of Macallan. Do you have a favorite whiskey? We talked about this a little bit earlier, but I think I'm going to lean... I have tried a variety of different scotches, and I'm a big fan of Scotch particularly. I don't really love bourbon. Bourbon's okay. Rye is, I don't know, too dry, if that makes sense. I don't know, it's a weird concept, but I prefer Scotch. I really like Johnny Walker Blue, but I'm not an idiot. That's super expensive, and I have one bottle that I've been draining down slowly for special occasions, like when I find out that I'm a dad, or a dad for the second time, or things go really well at a certain point. That's what that blue label is for. It slowly ticks its way down. But I've never had a bad Macallan, and this Macallan Select Oak had no bite. I don't know if it was just this bottle or what, but this was amazing. So I'm really a big fan of that. My Wizards campaign is ending at 18 because it's logical to stop here. Sadly, the entire group has at least 4 big bad evil guys wanting them dead. Would you say this DM is just saying I'm done? He might be, or they might be. Oh, yeah, thank you, Gromax. Yeah, super chats are a thing you can do on YouTube. It's like the YouTube donate button. So thank you, guys. These are awesome. I'm a new DM with relatively new players. How do I decide how much the PCs know about monsters they meet or magic items? Always intelligence check. It doesn't have to be an intelligence check. It's up to you. I I also have a hard time with this because in older editions, like if you were to look at a monster stat block, it would have in a section checks that you could roll to learn about the monster. And it'd be like, make a DC 5 check, you learn this. DC 15, you learn this. DC 20, you learn this. And they used to give it to us in a monster book, and they just don't have that now, and it bothers me. Let's see. Thoughts on the homebrew rule of giving a feat at first level? I'm 100% behind that. Go forth and give a feat at first level. Yes, McAllen, Dark Tower, Maltese Clue, and Caverns of Tharsia. Great scenarios. Judges Guild. I'll make my Judges Guild note, and I'll go look those up. Dark Tower. Dark Tower, Maltese Clue, Cavern of Tharsia. Oh, guys, Dante, thank you. I love sharing my thoughts with all of you, and you guys are always so positive and encouraging. So it really helps me to make content and enjoy making it. You know, I'd say like 95% of the comments and stuff I get from everyone is positive, and it's very rare that I have trolls or people I have to deal with, which is very cool. Have I run and played an RPG based on a TV show? I ran a Buffy the Vampire Slayer game in the Buffy the Vampire Slayer system by Eden Studios for 7 years. So yes. I also ran a couple of one-shots in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness game, which is based on a TV show. So there you go. Well, if you raise them to be a DM, you'll finally get to play a rogue. Absolutely, right? That's the plan. Is there a Discord for Nerd Immersion? Yes, there is. We do. We have a pretty extensive Discord. We have thousands of members over there. Let me see. I think in the settings below, I think I can find it here. I'll get you the Discord server link right now. Whoever asked for that. Discord server link posted. Parker, I just posted it now. I don't know when you'll see that. What got me into D&D? So I was 13 and I'd heard of the concept of Dungeons and Dragons, and I had no idea what it was, but I knew it was a thing that I wanted to play. But I did not understand the concept of character sheets and dice, and it was make-believe. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was kind of like a board game almost. And I had expressed to my parents when I was 13, my mother, hey, I want to play D&D. And my mother wasn't against it, but all she knew about Dungeons and Dragons was the Satanic Panic, that it existed. So when I asked for D&D stuff for Christmas a couple years, I never got anything. And then as I started to get older, I remember someone on the bus showed me like there's character sheet. It was a 2nd edition character sheet, and I still was just like, I don't know what this is. I watched the horrible D&D movie with Jeremy Irons. That didn't help. I happened to catch a couple episodes of the D&D cartoon when I got home from school, and then Dungeon Master was a character, so I was also very confused. And I played things like Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, or no, Champions of Norath. Played Champions of Norath. 1 and 2. So that gave me like a list. I still didn't really know what it meant. And then I was looking into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles RPG because I started to figure out what D&D was, and I heard of this from a teacher. Actually told me about the Ninja Turtle RPG. And then one day at lunch, one of my friends who I'd known for 5-6 years at this point sat down at lunch and said, hey, do you want to play Dungeons and Dragons? And I was like, yes, absolutely. And he was like, cool, meet me in the library 7th period, we'll make your character. I don't remember what I had 7th period that day, but it was not a study hall. But I went to the library anyway, and I made my first D&D character, and I was hooked. We played every Saturday for like a few months, and it was awesome, and I loved it. And I wish I could go back and do that again. When is your birthday? July 12th. Would you enjoy? What would I enjoy as a gift? Oh, guys, you don't have to do it. I don't know. I have an Amazon wish list. It's in the description of every video. I don't know. It's pretty up to date, but like you can pull something off there if you want. But you guys don't have to send me anything. You guys are awesome. Just you being here and supporting the channel helps every way. There's a PO box in the video descriptions as well, right? And if you want to send stuff over, you're more than welcome to. But I don't feel obligated, and I don't know what to tell you to get me. I don't need anything. What if you feel like you really want to send a gift? You'll figure something out. The wish list is a great way to think about it too. It's like a couple of stuff on there. I hope that helps. I don't know, but thank you. July 12th is my birthday. Thank you, Bradley, for that point too. I find charisma to be the best multi-classing stat, and intelligence can be good if you include Blood Hunter, but I find wisdom lacking. Do you think wisdom classes are too restrictive? Druid and monk armor rules. I see. Yeah, well, the problem that I continually bring up is that charisma is 4 classes. There's 13 classes, and 4 of them use charisma. So that's great for multi-classing. Intelligence, you've got Artificer, Wizard, Blood Hunter now, when they changed it to intelligence. And to a lesser extent, Arcane Trickster and, Eldritch Knight. So there are builds that you can use with wizards, or with wisdom rather. But your problem, you bring up a good point, right? A druid cleric multiclass can be really good, like the life cleric Goodberry class, but you can do that in other ways. But anyway, life cleric Goodberry druid kind of a situation is cool, but you can't wear metal armor because you're a druid, right? And there's no point in wearing armor necessarily, right? If you are a monk, because then you'd have unarmored defense. So I can see your point. There's definitely ways to get around it. A monk druid could be something because your unarmored defense should still work in your animal form. So that's something. Do I love Tasha's Mind Whip as much as you do? Troy, I haven't gotten a chance to use Tasha's Mind Whip. So I like it from what I remember it does. I'm gonna go look it up right now. And I will tell you. Let's see, Tasha's Mind Whip. Oh, yeah, no, I do enjoy Tasha's Mind Whip quite a bit. I just don't like that it's limited to only Sorcerer and Wizard. Just kind of a bummer. Yeah, Tasha's Cauldron would have been a great opportunity for a dedicated crafting system. Agreed. How often do you sleep? You've been uploading so much. I sleep every day, I promise. So right now, this is kind of a funky situation, right? So Saturday nights, if my son is good all week, we kind of, like in his playroom, we have a pull-out couch. So we set that up and we hang out in there and watch TV till he falls asleep. And that's kind of like a treat if he's good all week. So I did that. And then, he fell asleep. I decided I went up and took a shower. I had a cup of coffee. I'm wide awake. And I'm like, well, let's hang out. So I'll probably hang out here till the conversation dies or I start getting bored. And let's say this ends at 3 o'clock in the morning, right? I'll go upstairs. I'll go to sleep at 3 o'clock. I'll wake up at like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. That's more than enough sleep for me. 5 hours of sleep. I can operate fully functionally on like 5 hours of sleep, no problem. So that's about that, and I'll probably go to sleep. So I work from home now, right? Because, with the exception of certain circumstances, but I work from home primarily because of COVID. So I will, kids got to go to daycare up at like 7 o'clock in the morning. So usually we'll go to sleep around like 2 o'clock in the morning, wake up at 7 o'clock or so. And that's my regular day until the weekend, when I might get a little bit extra sleep if the kids sleep in. Now with WizKids going harder with battle mats, accessories, and sprue minis, do you think they might take over the cards from Gale Force 9? Maybe. I gotta reach out to Gale Force 9 since their lawsuit is over, see if they can send me some stuff. I missed what you said, Master TMO, or maybe I answered it and just didn't see it. You said something about, you know, assuming I won't get in trouble for posting that, so I don't know what you said, but I trust you, I guess. My dad was my first DM with Lost Boys bedtime stories that my brother and I could have input. Yeah, very cool. What's your favorite campaign setting or module you can always go back to? I've run Lost Mines of Phandelver I don't know how many times, so it's always a good one. I feel like it does a good job of introing stuff for folks. I was a huge fan of Planescape campaign setting and changing the way the planes are builds. Yeah, that's true. It could be difficult. What was your first game of D&D, i.e. specific module? No, it wasn't. It was my friend made a 100% homebrew game. The guy who got me into D&D that we just talked about a little bit ago. He made up a completely homebrew world. The only thing I know is it had Greyhawk gods. But it was a completely... I don't know what world it was in. It might have been set in Greyhawk. I don't know, but he made everything up, as far as I know. And it was amazing. And I love it. I still get like misty-eyed thinking about the stuff that we used to do back in the day. Ah, Draven Dresden, I will check my mail on Tuesday. You're awesome, thank you. What other wisdom class or subclass, like a third caster similar to Arcane Trickster, would you add to 5e? So we've got intelligence-based third casters. I think we need to add wisdom and charisma-based third casters. And we need to have... I guess the Artificer sort of fills the intelligence-based half-caster, right? So Paladin's the charisma-based half-caster, Ranger's the wisdom-based half-caster. I guess Artificer is technically the intelligence-based half-caster. Not really. So I would add wisdom modifier-based third casters and a charisma-based third caster. Probably cleric. Or probably, I'm sorry, not probably cleric. Probably fighter. I might just stick with fighter and rogue and give them options. That might be what I do as an option. Geez, Sanctimus, dude. As a DM, so anyway, back to the... I'll come back to your point in just a sec here. I might do... I did like one of my friends, Firebringer Axel, did, and one of my players played it for a while. He did a Templar fighter, which was like an Eldritch Knight fighter, but instead of the wizard spell list, it was the cleric spell list, and they got like healing bits. And that was cool. And I might do some sort of like divine trickster. I know that's kind of like dumb because Arcane Trickster exists, but it was, I think, a prestige class back in the day. And I don't know what I would do for charisma. I haven't thought about that. As a DM, do you rule that a patron is the source of the warlock's magic, or that the patron gifted the warlock the spark of magic that can't be taken away? So I don't really run a lot of warlocks. I do have one, right, in our Rise of Tmnt campaign that ended and is now sort of continued in a one-shot series. She had a patron, and then she switched patrons. I've more or less leaned more towards the spark of magic, but if you continually do things that go in the face of your patron, I think they should be able to take it away, because there's consequences there, right? Same thing with a cleric or a paladin. If you're a deity-based paladin, you know, a divine being has granted you this power. It's not like you're a bard or a sorcerer that's innate or through whatever bards get their magic from, or wizards where you did hard study. You are granted these powers from a divine, powerful being. They should have the ability to take those away, in my mind, if you do things that fly in the face of what their ideals are. You mentioned my regular job. I work as an emergency manager for a utility company. Morning from France. Good morning. Bonjour, I suppose. Do we need a 5e Planescape? We need a planar book more than we need Planescape, a book about the planes. I have that same bottle on my desk right now. Nice. Do you enjoy vinyl? I assume you mean like the records. And I don't have any, so I don't know. Favorite non-D&D Pathfinder miniature that you use? This one. It's funny. You guys are going to think it's stupid, but this little piece of rainbow colored string. You see that's kind of like a tail. It kind of sit it out like that, right? That right there, that piece of rainbow colored string. This right here was my druid's animal companion, Bob. His animal companion, Bob, the giant crocodile. In my 3.5 game, we found this piece of multicolored string and knotted it up, and this was 15 feet long on a grid, and this represented my giant crocodile. And from that campaign that I was just telling you about, how like super happy I was, that's my go-to. I also used to use a lot of Heroscape figures for good representations as well. Have you played with any restrictive homebrew rules? Not necessarily. Not that have I played in any. Maybe have I played with them. I don't usually restrict my players. I have played like I know Jake doesn't allow counterspelling of counterspells by the person casting the spell, so that's like a slightly restrictive, I guess. How do you deal with PCs that have 23 plus AC at level 5? How do you make it fair for other players that have an AC? Yeah. It's tricky, right? I agree. Probably dexterity saving throws, because if their AC, unless their AC is 23 plus because of like something like a blade singer, they might be good at dexterity. Heat metal is a great way if they're a heavy armor wearer. Heat metal is a great way to just ruin their day. That'll keep them busy for a while. I wish I could see on D&D Beyond all the fixes you have done. Yeah, me too. Some are available publicly. You can search Nerd Immersion under, like, I think, right? If you go to D&D Beyond and you go to browse, you have to choose it specifically, right? So if you were to go like browse, I don't know, spells, let's say, homebrew, browse spells, let's say, and you were to show advanced filters, you can look at author and you can type in Nerd Immersion in the author section. I think maybe my name will pop up. I'm checking right now. Oh, Nerd Immersion, no space. Let's try that again. Nerd Immersion. Come on. I think that works. Let me try something that I know I've created. I've done... Gosh, what have I done? Oh yeah, you can search Nerd Immersion under the author section and then filter. And any spell, for example, any spell that I've put in, homebrew spell, will show up there. And it'll be an option that you can add to your game. So you'd have to search each individual thing and see. And if you find something, then that would be how you'd go about it, I guess would be the best bet. Yeah, of course, guys. I mean, I'm doing a Q&A. Gotta read these questions. Bob the Stringy Crocodile, thanks for answering questions tonight. Hey, 5 Aussie bucks is coffee in the morning. Thank you. Have you heard of Mutants and Masterminds, and have you ever run or played it? I've heard of it. I have not run or played it. So I don't really have any thoughts on it. I don't want to make a judgment call till I've played it. In Pathfinder, you get to ask any feature of a monster you want for any 5 higher. Okay, that's cool. I like that. How does a PC get 23 plus AC at level 5? My guess is a Blade Singer, but it could be just a decent amount of armor. Your thoughts on OSR rules and hacks? I'm not like a super big OSR guy. I play with a lot of people that are, like Jordan, for example, and Lex are big OSR folks. I don't really have any hacks or anything. Well, since you ran Buffy and TMNT, have you looked at Serenity? It's the fire. I own it. I own the book. I have not looked at it, though. I think I have a ship that I designed in the Serenity book. Like there's a piece of loose leaf paper in there with a ship, but I don't think I ever actually got a chance to play it. Sounds like you should do a 5e crafting supplement and sell it to Watsy, like others have done recently. Yeah, I mean, maybe. That's listen, don't count me out, right? I'm working on some stuff. I don't really have anything to talk about, but I'm working on some things that I'm excited about. If you take a well-timed picture, you can get a picture that looks like the YouTuber is sleeping. Yeah, that is true. Do I have a favorite NPC? Yeah, I have a couple. So two jump to mind immediately. One, they both have, one of them was Eddie from my original homebrew campaign from back 5 years ago. Eddie was a dragon shaman. I made like I found a version of a dragon shaman for 5e, and he loved dragons. He was the dragon expert, and he lived in Neverwinter. He had a shop in Neverwinter. And he talked like Christopher Walken. And that was just it's one of my favorite voices to do. So I loved that. And I used this same voice in our Princes of the Apocalypse campaign that's here on this channel, because it ended before I started the secondary gameplay channel. And I made like a very powerful lich use Christopher Walken's voice, and the party would just visit him all the time because they loved that. It was a lot of fun. Mazes and Monsters. Yep. Oh, I know. What are your thoughts on racial feats? I tend to allow players to just have one on top if they're already available. So I like them. I think they're really powerful. I more often than not, like, I haven't decided whether or not if I do feats at first level, I want to be like, it has to be a racial feat, because that's unfortunate that not every class has, or not every race has those. So it's kind of a bummer. What's the largest gaming group you've been a member of? Probably that Buffy the Vampire Slayer game I was telling you about. We had 6 people, maybe 7 people in that game. Like, it was all by friends and like my little sister, but yes, Bradley, it's true. I would like to hit 100,000 subscribers for my birthday. So getting the word out about Nerd Immersion, getting more subs to the channel would be a great birthday present. But have I ever played Pathfinder? No, I've looked into it a lot, but I have not played it. You think D&D Beyond will ever have a virtual tabletop? Yes, I think they're going to get there at some point. Unarmored defense too strong as a homebrew feat? Depends on what version it is, but I don't think so. Aberrant Sorcerer loves a Mind Whip. Yeah, that's fair. I can see that. I personally think spell progression is too slow on 3rd spellcasters. What do you think about this? Level 3 to 7. Can take months in some campaigns, but you can barely... Yeah, I understand that. Do you have any thoughts or experience with Dragonhide armor? Yeah, the 3rd edition version I've used. I used the Draconomicon from 3rd edition, 3.5, to do anything dragon-based in my games. So I would do that. Ted, I sleep every day. Chat, it's impossible. How would you do it? Let's see. What's the largest gaming group? I talked about that. Howdy, Nerd Immersion. What are your favorite non-D&D RPGs? Well, I've already stated the Buffy the Vampire Slayer RPG. I was a big fan of that. I actually have a video on my top 7 or top 8 non-D&D RPGs. So it's under my top 10 section, so I would go check that out. I'll tell you what the video is called. We're getting into the point now where we're getting into I have a video for that section of the Q&A, which usually happens after a while. Where people start asking me about stuff, and it's like, well, I've done a video on that. But I don't fault anybody, because I do a lot of videos. Top 10, what is it called? No. Trying to figure out what the hell it was called. Let's see. Nope, that's not it. Top 8 TTRPGs other than D&D/Pathfinder, it's called. Came out on June 30th of 2020. Top 8 TTRPGs other than D&D/Pathfinder. If you had to pick a cat with a human face or a dog with... Oh, God, why? Cat with a human face or dog with human hands? I guess a cat... Or, no, I guess a dog with human hands? Your favorite source book or adventure for D&D 5e? My favorite source book is probably... Oh, it's a toss-up between Xanathar and Tasha's. And Adventure, I'm still going to say Curse of Strahd. I've recently become addicted to buying the 3D printed minis from Etsy. Have you ever looked at them? Yes, I have 2 3D printers. I do that often, so. I'm reading Siege of Darkness, book 9 of the Driz series, and holy cow, is it good. Do you ever give players items from the books? Sometimes I have, I think. I do love the Driz series. I've read every single one. I gave I don't want to spoil it, but I gave an item to my bard in my Rise of Tmnt campaign much later on. There's a magic item, a magic shield that I gave. It's kind of based on that. Any ideas for a 14th class for 5e? Necromancer? True Necromancer? Druid and Rangers are considered divine, kind of. Should those be taken away if Druid wears metal, if a Ranger does something other than a bow? Well, Rangers don't have to use a bow, right? That they can use tool weapons, they could use a greatsword. Rangers, they're looked down upon enough. No one's going to take their stuff away from them. I don't feel like they're true divine. They were divine in 3rd edition, but I think they're more just nature. They kind of live in the outside of scope of things. Well, Kyle Moore, I have an entire playthrough of Princes of the Apocalypse here on this channel. Look up Princes of the Apocalypse in the playlist section. Look for the one that's like 30-something episodes or 20-something episodes. You can watch me run it and see if you think you like what I did. I would really love a fighter/cleric style fusion class. I don't really like paladins for a few different reasons. I love martial class. Yeah, that's the Templar, right? I'll link it. I'll see if I can find it here. Let me see. Where is it? Yeah, here, I'll put this link. Oh man, where is it? See if I can find it. I want to get you the right one. Okay, here you go. So, tis I, just a guy. Check this link. This is the Templar that I was referencing. This is a fighter cleric combo. What's the 7th planet counting from the sun? Dude, I don't know. Oh my, fuck. Jupiter? I don't know. I'm not even thinking about it right now. What features do you think D&D Beyond needs to be a more complete experience? Homebrew classes, not just subclasses, would be key in my mind. And have all of the functionality that any certain item, like things have, applied across the board. For example, you can have custom actions for a feat, but not for a magic item. I need help with a feat. Skilled or skill expert for Aberrant Mind Sorcerer. Do you have an uneven ability score that would benefit from skill expert? That's the question. I'm joining a new campaign and playing a Blood Hunter Ghost Slayer with 19 strength, 4 dex, and 6 charisma. Oof, good luck. How do you run familiars that can talk? Imps from Pact of the Chain. I haven't actually had anybody have a familiar that can talk, so I haven't had to do it, which is nice. Favorite damage spell. Also love the videos. You're my favorite D&D channel. Keep up the great work. Spirit Guardians. It's favorite spell in general. While the Mystic is dead in the water, many people have made 14th classes. What would you want it to be? Necromancer. Stay tuned to the DM's Guild for reasons. We've got a spooky campaign setting coming out. Spooky class. Seems right about time for that. Have I ever gotten to Power to the Apocalypse games? I've played Glitter Hearts, which is a magical transforming, like a magical girl. I don't want to say magical girl because it's any kind of magical transformation. It could be Power Rangers, whatever. RPG that my friend Greg wrote. So that was my first experience with Powered by the Apocalypse, and I enjoyed that. Scrolling back up. What are you hoping to see in future books? I'm hoping we get more subclasses. Definitely more subclasses. Yes. BK Dan. Have I ever played the Palladium TMNT? There is a 2-shot of that game on this channel. You can go ahead and search under Nerd Immersion TMNT and Other Strangeness, and you can find me running a game. This is in my old house. When we used to play in the old house, we used to play in our dining room. She used to drive my wife up the wall, which is why I've made my first gaming table in the basement. So let me go. I'll pull that up for you here. But yes, I have run that. I own every single book in that entire series. Or maybe it was just one. Let me see. Did I just run one? Yeah, sorry, it's just one. It's a one-shot. It's a 3-hour one-shot. So here you go. BK Dan, there's my TMNT and Other Strangeness one-shot. But yeah, I own every single book from the TMNT and Other Strangeness and the After the Bomb series and all that. You think D&D Beyond will ever get intertwined with Watsy? I think it'd be a smart move if Watsy can pay for it. So, will I ever write a campaign book one day? Yes. Not anytime soon, but there are talks in the works. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Well, Officer Sausage. Well, I guess we'll have a sword fight then. Is Psychic and Necrotic good enough damage coverage? I am making a wizard. Yeah, I mean, that'll cover pretty much anything that will take pretty much full damage from Psychic or Necrotic. I know there is no real catch-all, but do you have an idea of how to get a party that has no ties to each other to stick together for a campaign so it's not just, let's just do these things together, I guess? You could do a group patron. You could do the whole, like, shared enemy. Right? If someone shows up and steals a bunch of stuff from them, they're all going to want to fight that person, and maybe they gain camaraderie that way. Have you played Morkborg? No, I have not. So Grave Cleric, Death Cleric, Life Cleric, Necromancer Wizard, and Long Death Monk walk into a bar. Who is the most uncomfortable in the group? The Death Cleric, because they suck so bad. I guess the Necromancer Wizard, too. The Grave Cleric, the Life Cleric, and the Long Death Monk can go make a viable party, and the other ones suck. What's my favorite fantasy book series? So I liked Eragon at the start, but I did not like how it ended. I liked the Dres novels. I've said that before. I liked The Magicians, the book series, not the TV show. I mean, I liked Harry Potter, let's be honest. You know, it was part of my growing up reading Harry Potter, so I enjoyed that. Lord of the Rings as well. I really liked the His Dark Materials trilogy. That got me through, like, a tough point in my life, so I'm a big fan of those books. I just have a nostalgic part in my life, those 3 books. Trying to think if there's. Oh, I really like the Summoner series. That was really good. I like that as well. I'm currently running Age of Worms. What is your favorite underused undead D&D monster? That is tricky. Undead monster. I like the Bone Claw a lot. I'm a big fan of the Bone Claw. I also like Lithaliches, right? Undead Lich Mind Flayers. My players are very slow to learning the rules for their spells and features. I've tried putting them in situations where they have to use any features. They aren't really responsive. Any advice? It's hard, right, to get people to read their own stuff. I don't have a good answer for you, unfortunately, off the top of my head. Do you think shots in D&D, called shots? I think they can be fun. I've been experimenting with ideas of how to make that as a system. People always want to do it, so I think called shots should appear in some way as an optional rule. But yeah. I'm teaching myself development, web React, and want to work on tools for GMs, specifically newer GMs. What do you think is currently missing from the current ecosystem? A quick and easy to use digital initiative tracker is something I feel like there's not a great option for. There's a couple, but they're not super intuitive. People keep saying encounter balancer, so that might be something too. Yo, Ted, back in 2016 when I deployed, I had a table with 17 Marines playing in it. It was pure chaos, but 16 new players were introduced into that hobby. Damn, 16? That's insane. Good on you, though. What about unarmored defense as a half feat? +1 dex, +1 con. I don't know. That's tricky. But it's a whole waste of a feat. Not a waste, but I'd have to think about it. I'm not entirely sure how I feel on unarmored defense as a feat. I started DMing, and I consistently visit your channel for tips and tricks. Thank you for all. Thank you so much. Great McCallan. Yeah, thank you. What is something that you love that you don't get to talk about much or people may not know you enjoy? Something that I love that I don't get to talk about much. Well, I mean, you guys know now, people know now that I do woodworking, right? That's a thing, and you know, in general, home improvement and mechanical stuff. So I love that aspect, you know, tools, and I love, you know, buying and learning how to use new tools, and, you know, making fun stuff, furniture and whatnot. I think most of you know that about me now, or have learned that about me. I don't get to do it as much, but you know, some of you know that I was on a track to be an Olympic archer for a while. So archery is something that I have been passionate about, but I haven't really been able to do in a long time. And honestly, cosplay and prop building is something that I got a lot of joy out of, and I just haven't had the time to do. And I'd really like, well, one, I'd have to get back into shape, which is something else that I'd like to do. But I'd love to get, you know, to make more props. Just honestly, at this point, they'd probably just be for me, because I can't go anywhere in costume or anything. So, I'm at wisdom or con for half. Yeah. Con is interesting, right? Because that's very useful for everybody. I think I remember one of your videos you talked about the staff of striking being a good weapon for a monk. Do you have any other suggestions for a non-Kensei monk? There's not good monk weapons, honestly. There's not a lot of good stuff for monks, which is a big downside. Person asking about it, player crafted plate, had a shield of faith shield and a +1 AC from a forge cleric ability. Oh, I guess that. So heat metal. That's how you deal with your forge cleric. Let's see. I run a group for D&D community. It's getting tougher to run combat. One of my players suggested a second DM. I don't know. I've heard a lot about this concept of 2 DMs, and I'm curious. I know some folks do it, but I think D4 does it. You know, the gaming channel, streaming channel. I don't know how that would work though. Oh boy, tough how, taking too long to do. I don't know what that was in reference to at this point. How can you can play as a warforged, a throne as a forger, blah 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 blah. Basically, yeah. What level do you think a party should be if they're going to face their first CR 13 monster? Probably around level 10. I'm sleepy and can't type. No worries. Yeah, still doing the Q&A, you know. For the player with low scores, a friend of mine had rolled a character who had no score above a 9. Woof. That's crazy. But could only be an assassin as per the rules, became the grandfather of assassins. Very neat. Yeah, I'm Ted. I replay/run D&D. This is the way. Yeah, it's true. How is the DM's Guild stuff going? Are you publishing content there? I have not. I haven't broken my mental block yet. But I feel like Ravenloft is pushing me into doing this Necromancer. But I was pretty happy with where I was, but then the Tasha's spells came out, like the Summon Undead Spirit spell, and I want to see if I can utilize that to leverage the Necromancer ability so that you can make corpses without, or make undead without having to have corpses. What is it? What? Who said anything about the Dresden Files? I never. Oh, book series. No, I never read the Dresden Files. I think I watched a couple episodes of the TV shows. It's on. Listen, guys. I mean, I have a whole list right now of just anime from you guys. I have a lot of stuff I need to get through with the time that I don't have. Do you even theory craft characters around a premise like a Master of Shadows? Yes, I do. I do theory craft characters all the time. I have a big long list that I'll never get to play. Well, the videos, what are your opinions on Pathfinder 2E? I have not considered playing it. When it was being launched, Paizo was trying to get me to get me a copy to review, and I don't have the time. D&D does well. The profit's there. Some people are telling me that Pathfinder 2 is a commercial flop. I don't know if that's true. But D&D is obviously knocking it out of the park sales-wise, so I don't see them going anywhere anytime soon. But I should look into Pathfinder even just to see how the other half lives, really, and see if I can take anything from it. Hey there from Japan. How do you deal with a player character that min-maxed a truly broken character? Don't like punishing someone, but they overshadow other PCs and trivialize many encounters. See, that's always tricky, right? Because they didn't do anything wrong. They just made a strong character, and other people didn't make them as strong. So a good question, a great question, actually. There's always the opportunity to, I know you don't want to punish them. You could put hard counters in some ways to some of their abilities, but there's always the option of letting the other players find a magic item, or giving them a quest of some kind that can give them something to sort of boost their power level to put them more on par with this kind of broken character. You know, I don't know the situation. You'll have to think about how you want to do that yourself. But then you might have to scale encounters up higher in general to just deal with that. So I would say, you know, if you don't want to nerf the one player or sort of try to hard stop them with encounters, you might have to do things by helping the other players out. But if you veil it in the form of a certain magic item or a quest or something specific to their character, no one needs to be the wiser. Have you taken weapons items from pop culture and brought them into your campaigns? Example, Master Sword having a ranged beam at full health. I haven't done that. I've brought the entire arsenal of Castlevania weapons into my game, right? The whip, the cross, the holy water, the stopwatch, clock, the knight, you know, the dagger, the standard Castlevania items. I put those in one game. I mean, a Sunblade is basically a lightsaber, so I don't have to do that. I brought in a chainsaw and a shotgun, the chainsaw and shotgun, the boomstick and the shotgun, or the chainsaw from Army of Darkness. I put those in a game. I think those were the main ones. If you check out my old It Builds character series, we did a lot of trying to build modern day stuff in our pop culture stuff, which is another series that I'd love to get back to doing, but I just don't have the time. Feel the DM awarded inspiration mechanic is underutilized, if not completely broken or completely forgotten in most games. Do you think there is anything that could be tweaked to bring it into favor with DMs? You mean DM awarding players inspiration for role-playing their characters? Yeah, in my game, it ends up more or less being you made a funny joke or a pun and people laughed at it, so they give you inspiration. But I agree. Feel you about doing daddy choose your own adventure with your kids. That's how I got my son into RPGs. Yep. Do you think 6E will ever come? Not in the near future. If it's going to launch, I think it's going to launch with the 50th anniversary of D&D in like 3 years. My DM is allowing me to play Grung. How do you feel about them as a playable race? I love Grung. Grung are one of my favorite races, so good on you. Resist poisons, but with a lot of creatures that resist poison, is it really OP? No. You're immune to poison, but look at a UNT. It's better in every way. So they have magic resistance on top of poison immunity. Yeah. Thank you, Bradley, for hitting me up on that. More than one DM, many LARPs have to do that. Makes sense. Recently got into the debate over the Scry spell. Unlike other spells, the target is unaware of its casting, but a wisdom save out of nowhere gives it away. So if using it on a PC, should the DM roll or the player? That's tricky. You could always just be like, hey, make me a wisdom saving throw. Just, you know what, so if you want to throw them off the trail, just do that every so often. Make people make saving throws for stuff that you don't tell them what it is. You keep them on their toes, excuse me, at the very least, but they'll be like, what was that for? And don't worry about it, it's fine. Make a wisdom saving throw? Oh, okay. Sure. And then maybe nothing happens. So if you set that up, you could roll. The players might feel a little bummed that they didn't get to do it. So you just have to balance that out. We're running 2 DMs for a level 20 mini episode. It's kind of clunky, but there are first-time DMs. Also played a game with a Go GM that really just handled rules and did... okay, I gotcha. Trails and files. Okay, I'll look into the books. I've heard good things. Would you please make a video on the characters you've theory crafted? Well, I kind of did in the top 10 multi-class builds that I made. Those are all kind of theory crafted. And I've done my Nerd Immersion build series. Those are all theory crafted builds. It would take forever to do a theory crafted build. Like every one I've ever done, that would take forever. How many characters have I made on D&D Beyond? I'm up to, you say you're up to 628. I actually end up going back and deleting a bunch to keep my list smaller. One thing that I would like on D&D Beyond that we don't have is folders. If I could make a folder where I could put characters in a folder, like these are my characters for this campaign, or these are my characters for this, and I could drop them all in a folder so I could track them, that would be huge. I only have 70 at the current, but like I said, I have deleted stuff, so I only have 70 characters on D&D Beyond. Have I heard of the Avatar: The Last Airbender TTRPG? Maybe? I think I heard that they were making one. I'm pretty sure. I could be off, though. If I feel like I have heard of it, and I've heard of some other stuff coming out. Is it a Cortex, or is it a specific? I don't remember. Do you think settings like Fantasy High should become more normal or even canon in the D&D community? I'm actually not familiar with Fantasy High. It sounds like it's a fantasy high school, I'm gonna guess. Maybe. I don't know, could be. Both my boys see me run D&D every week, and they, 5 and 4, have already expressed interest, and they want to play with the dice and toys. Yeah, we have a whole room full of daddy toys, which is where all my minis live, which is in a room over there. And they always want to, well, my older one definitely wants to play with him all the time. What are my thoughts on intra-party conflict? That sucks. If it's combative, right, where they're actually like pissed at each other, that sucks. Intra-party conflict has its place. I'm playing in an evil campaign. We have intra-party conflict. It happens. I think it depends on the group and the people and how you handle it. Right? Certain people might be able to let it go or just role play the scenario. But without the specifics, it's hard to know. For Grung, I personally think they are good, but the poison ability is super underpowered. Yeah, it doesn't, the poison isn't super useful. Like, it kind of dies off pretty early on, but it might be useful at points. But I think they're fun. What's your favorite character you've ever played versus made and never played? A favorite character I've ever played was probably my paladin Larenthier, who was the one my one true 5th edition character that I really got to play for real in like a long running campaign. Oath of the Ancients paladin. I basically made him a ranger without him being a ranger. Like, I made him very woodsy and knowledgeable about all that kind of stuff, and tapped into that green aspect of the Oath of the Ancients. And to the point where some of my party members actually thought I was a ranger, even though I was very clearly a paladin. They thought I was a ranger. But I enjoyed him the most, and the character that I made and never played, for our evil camp, there was a campaign we ran called Jake Game, which was very early on. We were doing every time we hit 50 subscribers or 50 followers on Twitch, we would have Jake run a game. A high level 14 was high level for us at the time. A level 14 one shot was supposed to be what he was going to do, and then it became a continuing one shot that he would run every time we hit 50 followers on Twitch. And my character in the original, it's all here on the channel if you want to go look it up. Jake Game, just look up that. My character was a blood hunter. I was trying it out, the original blood hunter, and he basically sacrificed himself to save the party. So I made a new character, which was, shocker, a rogue that I was super pumped about playing. It was a ninja, like a homebrew. I think it was a Walrock homebrew ninja, like rogue, and it had like shadow clones and all sorts of cool things it could do. I was super pumped to play it, and I made it, and I sat down, and he had me like walk into a cave, and then I was somehow watching through like a scrying pool the rest of the party go try to save my blood hunter from the hell dimension he was trapped in, and then I ended up having to play my blood hunter. So I got like the biggest cock tease in the world, where I got to play my rogue for all of 5 minutes, walk into a cave, and then had to go back and play the character that I thought was dead, but was just really trapped in hell. And then that campaign died after like 7 episodes because we just haven't had the time. And 7 episodes, and since now we'd have to have, that was around like 300 followers on Twitch. We have like 12,000 now. So if we decided to tap into that, Jake would have to run every game for like a year. But yeah, that was the character I was most excited to play that I never got to. What settings have you never played but want to? I'd like to try Eberron. I'd like to try Spelljammer. I'd give it a shot. Thank you to Templar subclass and all the amazing content. I've got so much more on the channel. Oh, thank you. Just a guy. I appreciate it. Do you have a favorite dice set? These orange Chessex babies. This is my go-to. Could you make the theory crafted builds into its own series so it can be its own playlist? I can see what I can do. Yeah. What's your coolest looking dice set? Oh boy, that's tricky. Well, I have the set that are these nice like frosty orange. These are made for my good friend Joe at RPG Dice. This is a custom set he sent me for my birthday. These cool little tokens and stuff. Got these guys. Those are pretty cool. Honestly, a lot of my dice ended up in my coffee table when I made the resin coffee table. So, that was the driving factor behind that. Was I have so many dice that I never use. I'm going to just use them as a coffee table decoration. Would you ever restrict race options, or do you play anything goes? So I have. In my homebrew world, Dragonborn as they exist in 5e don't exist. Because I don't like Dragonborn in 5e. I actually despise them. So I have my version of Dragonborn, which are basically the Dragonborn of Bahamut, which actually now in 5th edition terms would probably end up being a lineage that you would choose, which is you kind of undergo a transformation to become a Dragonborn, and that's the only kind that exists in my homebrew world. That's the only limitation I've really had, though. Do you think Watsy should release a modern 5e setting? They had modern rules, like they did a couple Unearthed Arcana about like modern rules, and then that just stopped. So I guess they kind of gave up on that. Yeah, orange color. I'm a very simple guy when it comes to my dice. I'm gonna get, the Pixels dice. I'll probably get them. Jean's super cool, and we talked about it, so I might get a set of those. I might use those just for the fun of it, but. So you have a bunch of characters you theory crafted. Why not use them as level 20 NPCs? I have, actually, not as level 20, but in this past session of my homebrew game, episode like 112, the party went to a town that had an arena, and it was just like, that's just where they were starting from when they plane hopped there to then go to where they were actually supposed to go. And then they just decided, hey, let's get into an arena fight out of a whim. So I had to pull characters immediately to make a party, an enemy team for them to fight in the arena. So that's why I ended up using my characters to do that. I've recently bought a few care packages for deployed troops that are D&D boxes. It has been incredibly fulfilling. What, if you had no budget limit, would you put into a D&D care package? The core set, if I had no budget, I'd take the limited edition set with the funky covers of the core box set of the Monster Manual Dungeon Master's Guide and Player's Handbook. A big old set of dice different kinds of sets of polyhedral dice. I would put in maybe some minis, some like basic style minis, or the Whiz Kids sort of like hero minis, the ones that pre-painted premium figures. Some like character sheets or something like that. If I had no limit, I'd give everybody a tablet for D&D Beyond. For notebooks, I give everybody a nice Moleskine notebook and these Sharpie S Gel 1.0 pens. Yeah, and then maybe like the starter set adventure or the essentials kit. Sanctum, can you tell us what happened to Dawn's Forgecast? I don't know. I'm part of a Facebook group with a bunch of YouTube and internet like tabletop RPG content creators, and that's a question that was brought up, like what happened to him, and nobody knows. I guess he just, like, I heard he had like real life stuff going on. I guess he just disappeared. Is there any class / race or build you would ban from a campaign? No. I love hearing your war stories from RPGs you played in. Yeah, there's a lot. I want to play a not super complicated character. Right now I'm playing a wizard with 40 known spells at the 10th level. I believe 16 extra copied. Any recommendations? I think I like the new rogue. I want to play a super not complicated. Yeah, I mean, champion fighter is the most uncomplicated character you can have. But if you want to have still options, I would say Soul Knife Rogue is pretty good. It's got some stuff, but it's got interesting things, and it's still got the abilities of a rogue. But honestly, the most basic, simple character you could have would be a champion fighter, right? You don't have much to remember, but that depends on what you want to do. I want to play a modern setting, but there aren't a lot of rules for these settings. I'm worried about overhauling my group to a new TTRPG system. Any advice? Yeah. I have a book somewhere. Put it away. Hang on. Modern Dungeons, a rules expansion for 5th edition OGL RPG games set in modern times. This is by Panic Productions. And it's, it's black and white, but it's a modern thing. So you can go to PANIK Productions.com, and they have an online storefront at DriveThruRPG. There you go. 6th edition, as I've said, I think will be when 50th anniversary of D&D happens in like 3 years from now. What are your favorite random generators that you use? I don't really use a lot of random generators. I should use more. I just kind of make it up in my head. Do you have a list of favorite D&D AL modules? I probably do, but I don't know it off the top of my head. Maybe I'll make a top 10. I'll add that to the list. Top 10 AL mods. Added that to the list. Why do you think Wizards keeps giving races natural weapons and acting like that helps balance them when they're pretty worthless? Yeah, I don't know. They're pretty useless, honestly. Earlier you're asked about a lizard folk damper that uses blood magic. What class would work best? Homebrew subclass? Oh, it uses blood magic. So the Blood Hunter could be an option. There's a couple of homebrew blood magic sorcerers that aren't bad on the DM's Guild. That might be where you want to go. Have I ever kissed a foot? Not on purpose. Gotten kicked in the face a couple times by my kids. So in that way, I guess I've kissed a foot. What do you think about the new clear bases from WizKids? I get the concept. I'm not a huge fan, but I like that I can see the grid underneath. As someone who's interested in publishing on the DM's Guild, do you think a homebrew class is the best thing to publish first? No, I don't, but, you know, I'm going to try it anyway. Give it a shot. I have some subclasses and stuff that I could put out as well. Would you ever play in a campaign that has no stat restrictions, like how back in 3.5 you could get a score as high as you wanted? If so, what character class would you like to play? I would give it a shot. What character class would I want to play? Maybe a rogue, because I never get to play them. But maybe a bard could be fun with jack of all trades, right? To get your like numbers up super high. And then obviously I just love paladin. So, but if I had super high stats, maybe barbarian, because I could have like really good everything. For my first group, we had a hard house rule. You can't directly attack someone at the table. That's a good one. What is your favorite part of playing D&D? Character creation is my favorite part of any game. So, and hanging with my friends is also a blast. That's like how we get to, that's how we hang out now. How often do you go non-synergistic with your background subclass combos? Pretty often. More often than not, I just make up my own background because that's one of the only like things you can completely create for yourself. You just choose from the existing background features. And then I usually, you know, sometimes I go hard where it's the same, but sometimes I go way the opposite. Like now I'm a super devout paladin, but my background was I was a criminal, that kind of a thing. Yes, I have checked out Star Wars 5e. In fact, I used a lot of those spells for Lagwin, my Blade Singer, was basically a Jedi. I used those spells, or those Jedi powers, to and converted them to spells. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I don't care enough about Dawn Forgecast to go look up stuff. Where's a link to the Templar? Post it again. Templar link incoming now. I'm pushing. It's pushing 3 a.m. Yeah, that's true. I'm catching up on the chat though. Is there any homebrew on D&D Beyond that you use that you didn't create? Yeah, I steal magic items from D&D Beyond from time to time. You think Watsy plays favoritism with the Wizards class? Maybe. I mean, it seems like it in a lot of ways. They get all the spells, and they're also Wizards of the Coast. Soul in Life is really cool, but I wish Psychic Blade said whenever you make an attack, you can manifest it from your free hand and make the attack with the blade. You can make that homebrew rule. What is your thought on a wizard who can wear heavy armor? If you spend the time and investment to get yourself heavy armor as a wizard, then there's no downside to it. A 3-level dip in champion for improved crit and action surge is fun. It's not min-max, but it does have some flavor, right? Nice chair. This is a Secret Labs Titan. I ordered it from secretlabs.com. I'm a newer DM. My biggest fallback is coming up with names on the fly. Be for improvised. Yeah, names are hard. There's a D&D, there's a DM's Guild supplement called like 10,000 names or something. I use that a lot. Why is the best module ever written, and why is it Red Hand of Doom? After Ted's AMA, Templar numbers stonks. What are your thoughts on the heavily armored Juggernaut Barbarian? Oh, I've read this one. I forget where I read this, but I definitely read it from someplace. Oh, well, I don't love the Juggernaut Barbarian, but I do love this one that I helped create, which is the Path of the Spined Ravager, which I will show you again from my good friend Axel, who basically took my concept and just tweaked it a little bit, which is basically an updated version of the Battle Rager, and like a good version, heavily inspired by what I anticipate to be the best version of the Battle Rager from the Legend of Drizzt novels. So take a look at that one I just linked. That's my heavy armor, the only one that I really like. What's your view on playing music during games? I want to get better at that, because we as humans are used to music in TV shows and things, and it tells you how to feel, right? That's the point of music in shows. It teaches you how to feel and how to feel in a given moment. And I think that music in games can do that. Especially people were talking earlier on, 2 hours ago, about horror campaigns, and music I think is key in a horror campaign to set the mood for sure. What's your thoughts on Ranger Monster Slayer? I liked it better when it was a fighter, the Monster Slayer, the Monster Hunter. Well, no, it's probably not a bad idea for me to call it soon. So what do you think is the biggest hurdle in Frostmaiden campaign? Getting people to truly embrace the horror aspect, that the isolationist aspect that they talked about it, and the fact that campaigns like that are completely ruined once you read them, which is also a big problem that I have, because I read all the campaigns to do coverage of all of them, so I immediately spoil all the secrets for myself, so it's not fun for me to play in it. The only other side is, if enough time goes by, I might forget aspects of it. So, do you think weapons need to be rebalanced in 5e? I wish there were more weapon types. Yes, there definitely needs to be more weapon types. Agreed. What do you struggle most with the DM? How do you combat that? Honestly, I struggle with planning, so I don't. I know that's horrible, but like I always want to sit down and have full plans for what we're going to do, and I just end up winging everything. For the most part, it works out okay. Because anytime I've planned something, my players just ignore it, so I just wing it every time anyway. What are your thoughts on a conversion of flesh grafting? Yeah, I want to do that. I want to add that in from like the Fiend Folio. That would be really cool. What's the best house rule you recommend to DMs? I like potions as a bonus action is a big one. Benefits for a positive intelligence score, like extra languages for positive intelligence score. Feed at first level. What's your favorite anime? Ooh, God. Rurouni Kenshin, I think, would be my favorite anime. But I have a lot of other ones that I like as well. What do you think about Magician's Soul Knife that throws psychic playing cards instead of blades? Yeah, that's fine. Live your Gambit dream. Do it. The Dark Souls inspired campaign. Would I like to play in it? I mean, I'd be interested. Hit me up. I can't say anything. Timing is always a problem in scheduling. But I mean, what the hell, right? I'm always interested to try stuff out. Do you think How the Mighty Have Fallen is okay for continuing after the up? That is so funky. The whole ending possible thing from Frostmaiden. I think that could be really fun. But it also could be like no one will have any interest in playing it. So I could see your problem there. I have a player that said he had amnesia, so I made him a true polymorphed person. What are some ways I can hint at what without giving it away? Dreams. Dreams are great. Visiting past lives or things that don't make sense, aspects that don't make sense in dreams. Isn't there a free object interaction in Raw? There is a free object interaction in Raw. Everyone gets a free object interaction. I was just about to say best laid plans go to pot when you introduce the players. Yep, agreed, 100%. Currently writing a Snowpiercer style campaign with the party in a very confined area going through a gauntlet of levels. Any neat ideas? I'm not sure. I don't really know. I don't have any good. I'm not also super familiar with Snowpiercer, so can't give you too much there. Have you ever played Champions? Of what? Champions? I don't know. Worst weapon besides the net? The trident, because it's just a worse spear. Yeah, time is the most precious resource. Thereafter death, you lose XP. Yeah, I mean that's Dark Souls, right? So, yeah, I'm thinking we're gonna get close to about calling it, folks. I think I want to do, like I said, I want to make some updates to my Necromancer class. My patrons have access to that for free. Well, not for free, I guess they're patrons, so they get it from that. But they've had it for a long time, and I haven't gotten any playtest feedback, so I might post it on the Discord to see if I can get any more feedback from playtesters, so keep an eye on the Discord. Do I feel like Watsy needs to revise older unpopular subclasses instead of putting out new ones? They definitely should revise ones, for sure. Running a pirate campaign looking for encounters while on the high sea. What would be a fun encounter for seven level 6 characters? A Marid, the water genie. And my group has some BS luck and killed Frost Maiden. Yeah, well, that'll do it. What's your favorite encounter idea that's not just a fight to the death? Oh, anything with riddles, you know, kind of like Labyrinth style. That's always good. Would you ever plan a campaign that's based on the fairy tale anime? Yeah, definitely. I mean, who doesn't want to have a fire dragon lariat, right? Really glad I took today off from work. Glad to have you guys here. Appreciate it. My games move really slowly in and out of combat. How do I speed it up? Combat makes sure players are ready on the turns ahead of time, and then just, you know, tell everybody, like, hey, what do you ask the players? What can I do to make things move a little faster? Are you guys feeling bored? Do you think Warlock needs to be fixed? 100% yes. Okay. I'm calling it, folks. It's been 3 hours. It's been a lot of fun. This will be posted up, or you can find it on YouTube after the fact. So, I don't use XP anymore, so that's that. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. See you next time.